can now breathe easy after the IEBC say they don't have to travel to change their polling stations or register to become voters. Chairman Wafula Chebukati told the Parliamentary Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs that the operation could be carried out at the 52 Huduma centers across the country and not at voter registration centers. During the session, the issue of voters changing their polling stations also dominated the meeting, where IEBC commissioners accompanying Chebukati said they were investigating the reality of the allegations that had been raised by some politicians.
Transfers will be there after the 30-day ECBR exercise is over. Transfers as we speak can happen at any Huduma within the county. It may not be useful to you, especially if the ward is very far from the Huduma center. We understand. But what we can do is just to create mobility for the constituency-based transfer ECVR to be mobile rather than stationary.
We switch gears to politics, where UDA has taken its campaign to the coast to popularize Deputy President William Ruto's bid to become president in next year's elections. UDA Secretary General Veronica Maina also advised coast residents to turn out in large numbers and register as voters in the ongoing national initiative to give Ruto a better chance of emerging victorious.
Wamama na waomba sana, msikubali kijana wenu, msichana wenu amefika, amehitimu miaka 18 kukaa ndani ya nyumba bila kujisajili kwa IEBC. Aende achukue ID, afuate nini? Sindio?
Maina was accompanied by Lamu East MP Sharif Athman and Lamu Senator Anwara Loitiptip, who have supported Ruto's presidential ambitions, saying his track record is unmatched. And an estimated 2.1 million Kenyans continue to suffer from hunger, a situation that has been fueled by prolonged drought. The areas most affected are the northeastern counties, where academic activities have been affected. When schools reopened for the second time, a large number of students have failed to return to school due to famine, and livestock continue to die. Dalha Ahmed is an administrator in Garissa County. Now, 4.2 million Kenyans have so far been vaccinated against COVID-19, placing the proportion of fully vaccinated adults at 3.9%. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
SpiceFM, Nyeri.
The following takes place between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us to assert our will.
When the legislature are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi Lokop is Jeshi Lawokov?
I can't say it very well.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the situation.
It's already building up in many parts of the city this morning. We're looking at traffic already starting on Mombasa Road, likely to continue for some time. We're also looking at it picking up on the Thika Superhighway, and we're also seeing traffic on Jogo Road this morning, getting towards Landis and the Kamkunji roundabout. So things at a dull roar this Wednesday morning, smack dab in the middle of the week. Let's see what it looks like as the minutes tick by. Will you help us out this morning? I hope so. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, that's how you can get in touch. Text us on 40127. We want to keep things moving. There are little pockets of the city that we want to keep an eye on, and we ask that you help us do that as well, so that we can keep things moving this morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start
A
your
very
day.
good morning to you. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. 9 minutes after 6, it's the 13th day of October, 2021. The conversation begins now. How are you, Ndu Okoh?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning.
Morning to you, City Muga.
Yes.
How you doing?
I am doing well.
Very good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Welcome to Wednesday.
First Wednesday of the week.
Yes. Yes. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, everybody from wherever you tuned in around the world. We are glad that you're able to tune in and happy to be alive. We hope you're also healthy. If you're not, we wish you quick recovery and all the best. Kenya's biggest conversation begins now. So, yeah, guys sitting somewhere at The Hague decided on a matter that had been taken to them. And the Republic of Kenya, through the president, says, "Kwendeni huko."
Wow.
Practically said, we don't care. This is among the conversations that we'll be having today. So what is it that the ICJ judges said? What's the implication of that? How did we end up where we are? And very many other conversations that we'll be having and asking ourselves this morning. We'll also ask you to participate. So the president says, you know what? I swore an oath to protect the territorial integrity of the Republic of Kenya. I intend to live up to that oath that I kept, that I swore, up to the end of my term next year, and hand over to a new president an intact country. Basically, he's saying, if the new president goes and sees ground, you ask him. It wouldn't be me. It won't happen under my watch. So this and more conversations coming up in the show this morning. COVID-19 in numbers. Today is the 13th.
Today is the 13th.
The 20th is just about 7 days from today. And it will be Mashujaa Day. And we hope to have vaccinated how many people?
5.8 million.
Right. In this country of ours.
Yes.
How many have we vaccinated?
Can I tell you how many we have in
Yes.
terms of vaccines first?
Okay.
Okay. We have 7,502,820 vaccines in the country.
Yes.
All right. Of that number, 4,210,315 have been administered. And 3,155,222 are the total first doses, while 1,055,093 are total second doses. 3.9% of the adult population has been fully vaccinated. We are trying to get to 5.8. We're right now at 4.2. So give or take about 1.6 million left. And we have 7 days to do so. Today being the 13th of October, not that it was cast in stone or anything, but the Ministry of Health and the committee is really trying to make it, symbolic. That on the 58th year of independence, you've been able to vaccinate 5.8 million people. All right. So we're still looking at about, give or take, 85,000, 90,000 people having been vaccinated on a daily basis. But it looks as though if this is the current trajectory, we will not be able to hit that 5.8 million. So there's still about 3 million vaccines available in the country, and they keep coming in. So in terms of availability of vaccines, they are available. The call continues to be that people come out and get vaccinated. That's from the Ministry of Health. If we look at global numbers now of COVID-19 cases, 239,477,111 cases of COVID around the world. And we look specifically at Kenya in the last 24 hours, 65 new COVID-19 cases, with 5 deaths having been reported over the last 30 days. We now have a positivity rate of just over 3%, 3.1%, doing well in terms of positivity rate. And there have been calls from the business community, there have been calls from the service industry in the last couple of days to the president directly to lift the curfew and stop this thing. Let's get back into the business of things. That's where we are right now.
Okay. The curfew conversation is an interesting one, because then they'll use that figure of, let's get at least a certain percentage of our population vaccinated, and then we can reopen, so we can be sure this and the other. This is a global trend as well.
Well, isn't that what the rest of the world is doing? Australia, New Zealand, Italy, Spain, France, Russia, China even, saying, you know what? This thing is not going to go away poof like Houdini's whatever. It's going to be here for some time. So let's learn to live with it, vaccinate everybody, make sure that we have that in check, and let's get on with our lives. This curfew business is not helping anyone, and we've seen that we're not at dangerous levels anymore. So let's see what we can do most with the most safe measures put in place, and let's get on with life. N'est-ce pas?
Yeah, but that's a key word. Vaccinate a certain percentage of the population.
Right.
When you hit that target,
then you can
you talk about reopening.
Yeah, because now you have countries like Australia with 75% of their population having been vaccinated, the US with over 60% now. Those are the ones that are having these conversations. We've had this adult population vaccinated, even now going towards children in China, Russia, in the United States and Great Britain as well. Then, okay, if you can do that, let's live with this thing and open up.
Okay, so we'll keep tracking how this vaccination drive is going on, and we'd like to encourage you, please, if you haven't received your COVID vaccine jab, just go and get it, okay? You can find out where you can get those jabs. Just log on to, what's that portal again? Mchanjo. Is it .co.go?
Go.ke.
Mchanjo.go.ke. Just check in there, register yourself, see what nearest facility you have access to. Go get that jab, okay? Yeah. Even pregnant women are saying it's okay. Okay? It's 6:15, and we are live streaming on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Are you online? Say hello. The people in South Africa, in Australia, in Zambia, in Papua New Guinea, we haven't heard from you in a while. Say hello, please. We'll be glad. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
I know you're in a society where men have become very lazy. They have made people's daughters become mamafuas. You know mamafua? Yes. That you come to a man's house, maybe you went out or you've come for a weekend. You find all his shirts in his laundry basket. Yeah. He was waiting for you to
come and clean
them. His wife, including his inner garments.
Right, yeah.
Ladies, stop doing that.
Let me
Those are wifely duties, and even some wives don't
That's
do them.
literally what I was about to say. I was wondering, there's even some wives who refuse to do that.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between work, love, and play. The Adults in the Room is the only show on radio dedicated to educating Kenyans on how they can stay winning in life and in love. Text the word adult to 22840 to get the latest clips from Adults in the Room directly to your mobile phone.
It's 14 degrees in Nairobi. That'll be the low for today, going to highs of 24 and mostly cloudy conditions, at least for this morning. 17 degrees is cloudy in Nakuru, highs of 24 and lows of 14. We're looking at a low of 15 in Nyeri, highs of 24 and mostly cloudy conditions through most parts of the morning. Eldoret is raining at 17, highs of 23 and lows of 14. In Mombasa today, mostly clear conditions at 24, at least for the moment, highs of 30. And we'll look at clear conditions for now, going towards cloudy in Malindi at 26, highs of 30 and lows of 25. Kisumu is partly cloudy at 17, highs of 29. And we're looking at Cloudy conditions in Kakamega at 17, highs of 27 and lows of 15. All right, out in Kampala, it's partly cloudy at 17, highs of 28. Dar es Salaam mostly clear for the moment at 24, highs of 30 and lows of 23. Joburg is clear at 16, highs of 28 and lows of 15, while in Lagos, partly cloudy conditions at 26, rule the skies, highs of 32 and lows of 25. Kinshasa is clear at 24, we'll see highs of 33 and lows of 23. Out east in Beijing, it's sunny at 17 going into afternoon, highs of 19 and lows of 12. Paris is cloudy at 9 with temperatures dropping to lows of 5 and highs of 15. It's clear in London, temperatures dropping here as well going into the winter months. 16 will be highs and lows of 19. And wrap things up in New York, it's still Tuesday night, 19 degrees and clear, highs of 22 and lows of 17.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
It's 19 minutes after
94.4.
6. Good morning.
Indeed, good morning. Kiprotich Toroitich says, good morning from the foggy plateau of Kinangop. I can barely see 5 meters ahead, but I'm watching you all keenly. Well, good to know. Karibu Sana. Good morning from the Duke of Nandi. You people are true patriots. Okay, I love the conversation that reflects the country. Asante Sana. Evans Okalo is not a happy man this morning. He says, sad with the ICJ decision. Says, good morning all the same. Becky Odhiambo, good morning to you, sister. Wishing you all a happy Wednesday. Faristo Muganda is tuned in from Ebubere in Mumias, Nikondani and Pango, he says. And yes, this was Evans before, and he says, ready to take us through the midweek, indeed. Angela Shihella, why aren't you live on Facebook?
Aren't we?
Are we not?
Okay. We'll find out soon.
Benson Mumo says, good morning. And Vincent Omondi says, good morning, Spice team. Kisumu is tuned in. Good morning, Spice. In Ugunja, that's where Ben Apudo is. And he says he's listening, but patriots are angry with the ICJ. They have declared Kenya won't cede an inch to Somalia. When are we reclaiming Migingo? Now that we're on that trip, let's just do everything. Chris says, good morning, tuned in from Gong, and Subukia is where David Kiare is tuned in from. Oliver Waukunda, I'm guessing he's tuned in from Ukunda. Vincent Ogutu says, tuned in from Samia. Alex Moses tuned in as well. Enyati Enyabitunwa is tuned in from Kisi. And Bede Ashley tuned in as well. Timothy says, hello, Thikatown is locked. Kisumu is where Jeffrey Mochama is. And Alex is also tuned in this morning. We see y'all. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Karibuni sana, everybody. Siti Muga, today's proverb.
Indeed. You know, when you think of the Luo nation and the diversity therein, and I listen to the constant discussion about unity, it reminds me of what is going on in the Somali nation. A clearly federal state, and yet there is this clamor for unity and togetherness. How does one find a working formula? Is it the language? Because if you talk about a country like Somali, I believe the language they speak is uniform. There may be differences in dialect, but the language is uniform. So what happens when you then come to, say, the Luo nation, where the linguistic differences are profound? It is not as though it is one shoe fits all. No. Everyone speaks a language or a dialect that is distinct and unique. All right? Let me read this proverb and let me explain or expound on what it is that I'm saying. All right?
Okay.
This is a proverb that just has two words. E hoya yanula.
Ateke.
E hola yanula.
E hola or e hoya?
Eye hoya ya nula.
E hoya yanula.
The patient animal fattens.
So which dialect is this?
This is the thing. You know, these proverbs, and Eric, thank you for sending these proverbs. These proverbs are from A to Z, okay? So I'm trying to go through letters of the alphabet. And yesterday I was at E, today I'm at E. Tomorrow I'll probably move to D, okay? But maybe I'll jump it and go to W. And my hope is that...
Do they have X?
That, my friend, is a very good question. And I would say, yes, they have X.
There's X?
Eric, why are you surprised? You asked a question and I answered.
It's weird, no?
Yes.
Actually, they end with a W.
Right. Very few languages.
So no
actually
X,
have
no
X.
Y, no Z.
No.
Okay. Okay. Again, Eye?
Eye hoya.
Eye hoya. Yanula. The cow that...
A patient cow fattens.
A patient cow fattens. Nice one. Nice one, CT. Thank you very much. So let's take a look at the newspaper headlines. And as we do that, do you have access to the Standard e-paper? It's only 20 bob per day. Remember, the physical paper is 60 bob. This one, e-paper, is 20 bob. And you get access to premium content on standardmedia.co.ke. You also get access to free Sudoku daily, crossword puzzles daily, and 10-day free access to the Standard archives. Yep. So only 20 shillings to get the all-new Standard e-paper. What's in the headlines? Yeah?
The glaring one.
Yes.
Obviously, carried across. It's reported on The Nation, not an inch. Kenya rejects sea verdict. On The Standard, Somalia walks out of ICJ without claimed territory. According to the International Court of Justice, awarding Somalia a claim to maritime boundary would have left Kenya without access to the Indian Ocean. So let's look at how it's reported in The Standard. Somalia's expansionist dream suffered a major blow yesterday after the International Court of Justice rejected its demand to have its territorial waters extended in a move that would have rendered Kenya landlocked. Somalia went to the Netherlands-based court in 2014 demanding that the boundary runs equidistant or a median from land border and further wanted Kenya punished for conducting activities in the disputed area. So this was about 7 years ago when this all started, at least at the court. Before that, there were years and years of semi-conflicts here and there, all right? However, the court dismissed the claim, finding that the net effect would have been to make Kenya a landlocked country, as it would not have access to the waters. According to the 15 judges in a unanimous decision, the geographical area between Somalia, Kenya and Tanzania was such that the Somalia's boundary claim would meet Tanzania's and disadvantage Kenya. The cutoff effect of Kenya cannot be examined. The cutoff effect of Kenya cannot be examined coast of Kenya and Somalia in isolation. When the mainland of Kenya, Somalia and Tanzania observed together as a whole, the coast is in no doubt a concave. Kenya faces a cutoff of its maritime entitlement as the middle state located between Somalia and Tanzania. This is according to ICJ's Judge Joan Donoghue. Kenya's maritime area is about 255,000 kilometers, which was determined through parallel latitudes in 1979. Meanwhile, it has a mutual agreement with Tanzania on maritime, which closes as a straight line along Pemba Island. The court agreed that if Somalia's claim is allowed, its boundary closes through the Kenya coast and joins that of Tanzania, locking up Kenya in a triangle.
Some positive way of reporting that story.
This is it. So this is how it was reported in the Standard.
We didn't lose.
No. There was no loss.
They didn't win.
They didn't win, didn't lose. All right. So the way it has been reported here, there's nothing really terrible has happened here, right? The case that you've brought forth has gone. There was no decision for you.
It's that thing that you were saying yesterday. You know, as long as the other person didn't win, then you consider that you've won.
You've won.
if they didn't get what they wanted, the two women who went to King Solomon with the baby, the true mother of the baby
said, "Abana,
don't cut
no.
it.
Let her have the baby."
Now, as is reported in The Nation, with the International Court of Justice siding with Somalia, Kenya could lodge a protest with the United Nations Security Council, resort to a diplomatic offensive to stop implementation of the judgment, or simply defy and refuse to comply with any orders of the court. You ask, what is this judgment then that Kenya would then be able to defy, as is reported in The Nation? The International Court of Justice has set the stage for confrontation between Kenya and Somalia after Nairobi vowed to reject the verdict on the Indian Ocean boundary dispute with Mogadishu. Now, here's where it gets technical. The ICJ yesterday upheld Somalia's equidistance formula on the boundary demarcation in the Indian Ocean waters, effectively rejecting Kenya's long-held position of delineation along a parallel of latitude. For the foregoing reasons, the court considers that the conduct of Somalia between 1979 and 2014 in relation to its maritime boundary with Kenya, as examined above in particular, is alleged absence of protest against Kenya's claim, does not establish Somalia's clear and consistent acceptance of a maritime boundary at the parallel of latitude.
Kizungu mingi.
I'm telling you. So after you read that, it's clear as what? Clear as mud.
Yes.
Okay? The court finds that there is no compelling evidence that Somalia has acquiesced to the maritime boundary claimed by Kenya. So Kenya has claimed a particular boundary. We found that Somalia has not agreed to this.
Yeah,
we have
and
not
just
agreed
the fact
to this
that
boundary
in
that Kenya has
1979,
claimed.
since then they haven't been speaking. It doesn't mean that
we've
they
not agreed.
Yeah.
So essentially,
silence
saying,
is not consent.
So Kenya may have said this is ours, just because Somalia has not said anything about it in a manner that would suggest they were confronting. It doesn't mean that they're all right. So we are saying essentially that there could be. What's the word I'm looking for? There could be dialogue, there could be discourse as to how now this would be demarcated. It is in that they're saying there was a victory to Somalia.
What really is going on here?
What do you mean?
You know, we've been neighbors with Somalia since time began. And that water, we all found it there. But the discussion of boundaries, it's something that goes on and off, but it's never been a sticky or a thorny issue. And why I ask the question is because of the rumblings in the Middle East, the rumblings in the Gulf, and a sudden entry of Turkey into the discussion. Now, many people...
And other countries, some Nordic countries as well.
You know, actually, you've got to the heart of the matter. Do you remember when we spoke to the EU ambassador?
Yeah.
And we were talking about this very same issue, not with reference to Kenya, but with reference to the Gulf.
Yeah.
Okay? And the particular interest that some EU countries had, some Nordic countries had, and many countries in the Middle East had in this particular area. Now, Somalia's proximity to the said Gulf, okay, is of interest here. Now, I was going to say that there are many people who may not know that historically, the Turks were a huge colonizing empire. Many people have not heard of the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was essentially a Turkish empire. And it traversed what you now see as Europe right up to Russia, the Baltic Sea. Now, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that one of the things that many nations do when they've reached a point where they feel they're powerful enough in and of itself and to themselves is they want to extend their influence. Neocolonialism has nothing to do with occupying your land. It has to do with influence.
Yep.
And it looks like the influence that other countries want to exert in this area is being brought to bear.
Yep. And it's because there's some commercial benefits.
Huge
commercial
benefits. Huge.
Yeah. What is suspected to be some deposit somewhere. offshore.
Lots and lots
oil
and lots
exploration. There's so many
Bas.
things that come into play here. The waters are fertile for oil exploration and other kind of minerals that will be beneficial commercially. So it's not something that you're going to give up easily, right?
We'll continue this conversation. Continue the conversation at 7 o'clock and ask, looking into the details of this particular judgment of the ICJ, the statement by President Uhuru Kenyatta after this, and then what the options that Kenya has. What should Kenya do? Or if you were the president, what steps would you take next? Kenya's biggest conversation at 27 minutes to 7. Let's take this break. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial *550*1# to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your Telcom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
The opportunities are here. Project X, the biggest youth empowerment project in Africa for young creatives, is here. Are you a model, a fashion designer, or a performing artist? Then this is the opportunity you have been waiting for. Register now for the opportunity of a lifetime by following @Opportunities Are Here on Instagram and The Opportunities Are Here on Facebook for more information and the registration link. Online selections begin on the 12th of October and registration closes on the 22nd of October. The Opportunities Are Here is a project by the Ethical Fashion Initiative in partnership with the European Union. Project X is co-produced by KTN Home and Vibes Radio.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz,
That Uhuru
neo
Highway
soul,
phenomenon
and
seems to be playing out on
nostalgic
the roads this
ballads.
morning. Not quite sure what's going on, but Uhuru Highway looks inbound, not very pretty. A lot of traffic then joining from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, heading out towards Haile Selassie, and that's where the bulk of the traffic is this morning. Well, not so. Jogger Road also getting out into the city as you get to the City Stadium roundabout, not too bad, but then you're getting off onto Landis and then approaching Kamkunji and then Haile Selassie from that point. Lot of public service vehicles there, and that is causing the traffic that we see. It's also building up on the Thika Superhighway this morning, coming past Survey. Not too terrible at the moment. Kiambu Road is still free as air. And not an issue there, except just at the roundabout as you get to Muthui Square. Beyond that, not too terrible. We're also looking at some traffic then building up coming out of Limuru Road. Let's take a look at the Langata Road this morning, and it's already building up right around the Wilson Airport, heading out towards the T-Mall roundabout. That's where we see the bulk of the traffic. Of course, she cannot be left out. The glorious Mombasa Road inbound today. Quite some traffic as well. Outbound, interestingly enough, right around that airport turnoff, we see some traffic there. North Airport Road looks very good, at least for now. We're not in traffic hour just yet, a few minutes past 6:30. Let's take a look in a short while and see what it looks like. But for now, you should be able to get where you're going without too much of an issue. If you do, let us know on SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
We'll be looking at this story of the ICJ later, but I've seen a comment here by Kamau Anthony. Kamau says, a government that could not reclaim Migingo, a government that is being outgunned by so-called terrorists in Laikipia, now fighting for oil-rich territorial waters. This is a disgrace. Well, we'll have that conversation at 7. So, the National Assembly Committee on Planning, Finance and Planning has presented its report tabled its report to the House. Remember, they were looking at this whole issue of the cost of fuel in the country. So among the recommendations that they have is, 1, reduce the VAT from 8% to 4%, cut the petroleum development levy by half. Also targeted for reduction is the VAT rate on LPG from 16% to 8%, as well as the gross margins of oil marketing companies being reduced by 3 bob. That's from 12 shillings to 9 shillings. Upon adoption of the report, the National Assembly will be required to revert the 18.1 billion shillings that was, let's use the word that I have used, misapplied. Take it back to the Petroleum Development Levy Fund for stabilization of fuel prices. That's all they get, the National Treasury, a slap on the wrist. The report also seeks to have the Kenya Ports Authority fast-track completion of the Kipevu Oil Terminal 2 in order to reduce demurrage costs. They are also saying that whole issue of the demurrage costs. Demurrage first is a fee paid when a ship arrives at the terminal to discharge oil and has to wait beyond the stipulated time. It is charged on an hourly basis based on the agreed market price, and it emerged yesterday that a vessel attracts 4.5 million shillings per day it spends at the port. It stays there beyond the stipulated time, demurrage. So it seeks to have the number of days that a ship can stay at the Kipevu Oil Terminal specified, as is the case currently with the Shimanzi Oil Terminal, in order to reduce the demurrage charges. They are also saying in the fuel price formula, remove the demurrage cost from landed cost and have it as a separate item so that everybody can see, why are we paying higher demurrage this month than we paid last month? Why are we paying more than we had paid previously? So we can explain, why did a ship take longer to discharge the product at the port and it cost us more? Someone has to explain, all right? So they're saying, remove that from the landed cost element. Let it be a separate one. That whole issue of reducing the oil margins for the oil marketing companies by a whopping 3 bob, that's going to be a huge one.
Indeed.
That's a huge one. Currently, it's 12 bob. That's 12 shillings. 8 shillings goes to the oil marketing company and the one that distributes. The person who runs a petrol station, let's say City and I, we go and apply to pick one of the big ones.
Big oil companies?
Yes. Total, Shell.
Both.
Okay, those are multinationals. I want to go to the biggest Kenyan, Delta.
Delta.
So we go to Delta, that's and say we'd like to run this particular station. So they give us the rights to run it as a dealer. For every liter of petrol that we sell, 4 bob comes to us. That 4 shillings is what we're using to pay power, to make sure that the air compressor is working so that when Ndu comes to check her tire pressure, it's always working. It's what we're using to pay licenses. This is what we're using to pay staff. This is what we're using for everything. Okay? The 4 bob. That's our margin. 8 shillings goes to the person who is now the Delta company, Galana Oil, to go and get the oil from the terminal, put it on a truck, and bring it all the way to us. Their costs plus their margin, 8. Ours, 4. Reduce that by 3 bob. How do you think it's going to play out? The one who has been making 8 bob makes what? 6?
5 bob.
Why is it the only one who's covering that? Everybody will have to share.
Oh, so you're going to remove some 2 shillings here, remove 0.5 here, 0.5 here.
Let's assume the dealer loses 1.5 bob. So we start making now 2.5 instead of 4. And these guys make 6.5 instead of 8. 2 shillings and 50 cents to continue running that petrol station. The fact of the matter is, that formula, the 12 bob that they were given, they've been making money out of it. So one could argue, removed by 3 bob,
you'll still make some money. You'll be all right.
Some money.
Yeah. They'll be okay.
You know, the argument about making the money only makes sense if we contextualize it.
Yeah.
And the context is the times we find ourselves in. So everybody has to contribute. Now, you who own a petrol station, you're fortunate enough in that Kenyans like driving, so they'll keep coming to fuel their cars.
Yeah.
So much as you may reduce on the amount of money you actually made, but if you look at the volumes, if fuel is cheaper, the likelihood of you making more money simply because the turnover will be higher exists. So it is really not a net loss. Not really. And even if there was a reduction is not a loss in terms of profit. What it means is, in the times in which we live, if everybody is actually contributing towards the welfare of the nation, then that is your contribution. Yes.
Everybody's contributing.
That is your contribution.
So the government is saying, all right, I'm being forced to forfeit how much I'm collecting in terms of taxes and levies. Sawa, then even you.
Everybody contributes. See, the Mwananchi has been contributing by suffering.
Yes.
Okay? And really suffers. Yes. Because they can't afford to live. They can't afford to exist. They can't afford to be alive. So let's ensure that they can afford to be alive. And this is what you're doing by foregoing that profit. You're ensuring that the Mwananchi can afford to live.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. One more before we take a break.
Okay.
City.
Oh, go ahead, City.
You know, I'm usually at a loss sometimes because I'm reading and there's so many things that anyway. MPs increase foreign travel spent 14 times.
Sorry, what?
Headline on the Business Daily.
Okay, sorry.
Can we take that break?
Yes, let's take the break.
It's needed.
Say the headline again.
MPs increase foreign travel spend 14 times.
Wow. It's 7:15. Good morning.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Nafandi umbo yako iko na
Nini umba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay, City. Hi, now we are ready. Now we are ready.
On your marks,
get
set. MPs' spending on foreign trips hit a historic high in the 3 months to June this year.
All right.
Highlighting their renewed appetite for overseas tours following the easing of COVID-19 travel restrictions.
Okay.
Data from the Controller of Budget shows that members of the National Assembly and senators splashed 703.1 million on foreign trips in the 3 months, the highest quarterly spending since Kenya started making public travel spend in 2013.
Where are they going? Highest in a quarter.
Yes.
Okay.
Ever. The spending on flight tickets, accommodation, and allowances. Here I turn the page so that I can continue reading.
Continued on page 2.
Rose from 1,309.8%. Yes.
I wasn't expecting percent at the end of that number. All right.
Or 14 times. From 49.87 million that the lawmakers spent on travels in the quarter up to March. You know,
Jesus. Okay, now let's just contextualize. All right? So this is looking at quarter per quarter, comparing this quarter to previous quarters in other years. Now, what is the context? At the height of COVID-19 travel restrictions, you will find that there is a quarter that actually reduced that travel expense
significantly
by over 14 times.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if we just look at it year on year, you may find that maybe they spent the same that they've spent a year before, or they spent less than they had spent a year before. It's just that this is the only time that was left. So all the planned meetings, all the conferences that had been scheduled, the whatever, what do they call them, benchmarking trips that they had scheduled to go, let's say last year in April, not last year in April, this is the previous financial year. Let's say, April to June 2020, which is the comparative quarter last year, and April to June this year, it would be different, because April to June last year, it was at the height of COVID restrictions. They would not have moved.
No. The discussion around this is primarily this. Must you physically go to a place to have a meeting? Must you?
Okay.
Because when you travel, let me give you an example of why the question is raised. It's raised even in this article. One of the destinations that is most expensive in terms of the per diems that are given to lawmakers per night is Singapore. If you travel to that particular part of the world, you will be paid 143,490 3,000 Kenyan shillings per night. Essentially 145,000 shillings.
Per night.
Yes.
Okay.
However, if you travel to the US, you only get 132,000.
Okay.
Now, these amounts in the past may not have been significant, but during COVID times, when there are two attempts, an attempt to continue raising money and an attempt to also try and save money, this is not the way to save money. When it is known that you can have meetings without necessarily traveling to that destination that you're supposed to go to.
Indeed.
If G7, G8, G12, G30, that G meetings that are normally had, if they were able to have their meetings online.
Virtually?
Yes.
So can you.
Yes. But foreign travel, I think, has been considered by government officials and our lawmakers as their right. So, even as
if you don't travel, you're not working, no?
Yeah, surely. How can you be saying
how can you say
you're
you've worked and you've not traveled? Not possible.
There's something you lose by not being there.
Yeah.
A lot of money. What else are you looking at?
So, there was a story of a fake magistrate, right? And he was arrested for having adjudicated, or at least purported to adjudicate cases. And people seem to have believed him. So detectives have been allowed to hold him for 14 days to continue detaining him, and they've accused him of masquerading as a magistrate and defrauding members of the public. Senior Magistrate Rose Ambata yesterday said the police gave sufficient reasons to detain Victor Kiprono Ngeno. Ngeno was arrested on the 9th of October at the Shabab Estate in Nakuru town, allegedly obtaining money from Samuel Soy by pretending that he was a magistrate and would intervene in expediting a civil case he had filed at the Nakuru Law Court. He is said to have obtained 100,000 shillings from Soy on diverse dates between March 15th, 2018 and December 31st, 2019. Further, police claim the man obtained an additional 1,564,230 on the pretense that he was a brother of the Devolution Cabinet Secretary Charles Keter and would help him, Soy, secure a job at Kenya Pipeline. This guy was ambitious. The CS was in charge of the energy docket before a reshuffle by President Kenyatta 2 weeks ago. So, Magistrate Ombata said the investigating officer, Inspector Elias Bayer, had proved that there are compelling reasons to continue holding the man. Several reasons have been advanced as to why the respondent should be detained further, and I am satisfied that the reasons have been adduced, and especially that the police need more time to process the several complaints that has been made against the respondent. The court noted that the police need time to establish the true identity of the suspect, because now with this, maybe his name is not Victor, right? In the application, the investigating officer said 7 more people last weekend lodged complaints against Ngeno. The police also said they will have to send the suspect's fingerprints to the National Registration Bureau in Nairobi, since he alleges he had not been issued with an identification card. So like I said, maybe his name is not Ngeno. There is no need to conduct identification parade, since several complaints against him have been reported, and some complaints from outside the county of Nakuru. So he had approached several people, or they had approached him, and he said, magistrate, yes. Brother to the CS, I can even get your son a job. Just, pay up. Pony up the funds and we can sort it out. Clearly did not happen, and folks got frustrated, and what did they do? They called police.
Okay. So basically he ended up in that situation. He took himself there in that situation.
So what is he
for a
being
while,
charged with?
Impersonating or masquerading as a magistrate. Among other things, that there could be additional charges to this.
There's fraud as well.
There's fraud. You can't do that in this country, CT.
Do what?
Masquerade as a magistrate.
You can't?
No. It's against the law.
So what can you masquerade as?
Well, I don't know. Try something else. Somebody's son. But
as I was listening to this story, what came to my mind, I was thinking, what this man actually did, he...
Allegedly.
Yes.
Allegedly.
No, what he did, according to the newspaper, he allegedly did, was pretend to be an employment agency.
That was amongst the things he allegedly did.
And a fixer.
But I think the fixer bit is true. He fixed himself.
He
fixed something, that's for sure.
He fixed people. Talking about prosecuting people, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions is not happy.
No?
Oh.
Because there's an MP called Samuel Atandi who has a proposal that's in the National Assembly that seeks to remove the powers to appoint prosecutors from the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions to the Director of Criminal Investigations.
I thought we'd move from there.
No. So yesterday,
no, we hadn't.
ODPP was all over Twitter saying the proposed amendment risks taking away the independence of the prosecutorial framework. The office said that the ODPP and DCI have distinct roles of prosecution and investigation, respectively. The office said it has never sought to be handled to handle investigative powers because they are rightly under the DCI. The ODPP believes the separation of prosecution and investigative powers provide check and balances in the system and enables accountability of decision making. It's for this reason the ODPP has never sought to be equipped with investigative powers. Any attempt to amend laws to take away the independence of the prosecutor should be opposed for its unconstitutionality. He further assured of a commitment to work with all actors in the criminal justice system. As he was making all these remarks, the Alego Songa MP Samuel Atandi had written to the National Assembly Speaker Justin Muthui seeking to withdraw the proposal. Reference is made to my letter dated September 29, 2021 to your office on a proposal to amend the ODPP Act 2013. I hereby write to withdraw the proposed legislation to allow further consultation. The proposal says ODPP has lost many cases because of lack of competent prosecutors in certain technical areas.
But is that really true?
So Atandi was saying, now to fix this, remove the powers from him, let somebody else appoint prosecutor.
But has this not been the subject of a back and forth discussion between the DCI and the Office of the Public Prosecutor for the longest time? Oh, the investigators didn't provide us adequate information. Oh, it didn't meet the threshold for this. I mean, this jostling for power and trying to see who can win the pissing contest.
Yeah. Page 11. This is where the public stories are of the Standard. 1 month since President Uhuru Kenyatta declared the ongoing drought affecting parts of the country a national disaster, the government is yet to mitigate the effects. Locals are now resigned to fate as the situation has become dire, with many of them losing their only source of livelihoods, their livestock. Every day I lose 2 to 3 animals due to this drought. So far, my family has lost about 50 livestock. We need urgent help. This is according to Omar Aden Kasim, a resident from Liboy. What's worrying is that since the declaration on September 8th, there has been no intervention from both the county and national governments as the drought situation reaches unprecedented levels. The National Drought Management Authority has painted a grim picture of the situation following the high number of livestock deaths across the region. Local leaders are now appealing to international aid agencies to come to their rescue. There has been no help from the government despite the drought being declared a national disaster. This is according to former Governor Nathif Jama of Wajir. Nathif Jama was former governor of what? Garissa. Jama asked the international aid agencies to come forward and help families in need of food. Same story. Yeah. It was declared a national disaster and it's still in the back burner. What are we doing? What we're doing is we are talking about, Limuru 3 conference. We are talking about meeting Mount Kenya Foundation. We're talking about how much we're going to be giving people when we are elected president. How many youth are going to sit in our cabinet.
Today.
There are people who are dying.
Today.
There are people who are watching
Eric,
their livelihoods
before
disappear.
Before we get into the hour, some good news here.
Uh-huh.
I consider it good news.
Okay.
There's a young lady, 19-year-old now, August 28, 2017, got electrocuted.
Oy.
She was picking firewood in Meru.
Uh-huh.
Both arms had to be amputated.
Uh-huh.
The mother took the case to court.
Uh-huh.
The High Court awarded 20 million. Kenya Power appealed, went to the Court of Appeal.
Uh-huh.
Court of Appeal told them, please get lost.
Uh-huh.
No amount of money is going to replace this girl's hands. The award stays. You will pay 20 million Kenya shillings.
Wow.
Yes, I thought I would mention this.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Both arms had to be amputated?
Both arms have to be amputated.
And how old is she now?
19.
She's now 19.
Yes.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. And then now they'll take forever. Oh, processing this and the other. Oh, the money has now left our office. It has gone to your lawyers. Oh, your lawyer. Oh. My goodness. Kenya's biggest conversation. Keep it right here. For more, it's now 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. President Uhuru Kenyatta has called on nations around the world to stop separating Africa from important decisions that affect its citizens. Kenyatta said Africa must be fully involved in global leadership, technology and development issues. Addressing a UN Security Council conference, Kenyatta also advised African leaders to use available resources to serve the people, especially in this time of COVID-19 pandemic. The president raised concern about time taken to address conflicts around the world, insisting that the delay threatens security and international unity. Instead, Kenyatta called on the council to address African security and the challenges of climate change.
The Security Council today, as a result, spends the majority of its time discussing conflicts in Africa. Often, if not in every instance, one of the root causes of such conflicts is how decolonization was poorly undertaken over half a century ago. So today's Pan-Africanists, of which I am proud to call myself one, are calling for multilateralism to urgently respond adequately to the issues of today, to address itself to climate change, biodiversity loss, as well as the multiple protracted security challenges that we face.
He emphasized the need for Caribbean nations, for example Haiti, to be empowered to address its challenges such as poverty.
Haiti happens to be one of the situations in the Security Council whose multiple crises concern Kenya the most. As part of the Caribbean, Haiti is part of the African Union's 6th region. We are joined by bonds of ancestry and a cultural heritage. So we all feel that it is our duty to demonstrate our solidarity in the same way we did early in the year by enabling global vaccine procurement for the Caribbean countries in ways that were unimaginable in pre-COVID time.
President Kenyatta praised the steps taken by Kenya in various fields such as infrastructure and energy production. President Uhuru Kenyatta has once again responded on the Pandora Papers expose, saying his name was never mentioned. The president, while speaking during the UN Security Council Debate in New York said he has also not been mentioned in any illegality on the same. James Karanja, an economist, says tax-free countries attract foreign investors who use those facilities to save their money they feel could be affected by instability in their countries.
There are certain characteristics that make up for what is a tax haven, and one of those is the low tax. The fact that the jurisdiction is extremely low tax. We're talking anything below perhaps 12.5% or less than 15% would be what you call a low tax jurisdiction. There's always the incidence of high secrecy, that there's a lot of confidentiality around who are the owners, where the assets of the organization are kept. Those registries are very private, and that information is not readily accessible.
An estimated 2.1 million Kenyans continue to suffer from hunger, a situation that has been fueled by prolonged drought. The areas most affected are northeastern counties, where academic activities have been affected. When schools reopened yesterday for the second time, a large number of students have failed to return to school due to the famine, and livestock continue to die. Dahla Ahmed is an administrator in Garissa County.
People have lost completely all their livestock. Imagine of a situation now, schools are opening. There are those parents who opted to shift with their little livestock that is left in need of pasture and find in search of pasture and water wherever they are. And definitely they will have to go away with their children. So we expect a very low turnout of students and people when we open the schools.
As political tensions continue to rise ahead of the 2022 general elections, NCIC has warned politicians who spread hate speech that action will be taken against them. NCIC Commissioner Dorcas Kidogo said the commission is monitoring all meetings to prevent violence.
Kama NCIC tunataka elections bila noma 2022. Yani kila mmoja auza sera zake na musikize, na akimaliza nyinyi wenyewe 2022 mnajua ni nani mtapigia kura. Kwa hivyo hatutaki vurugu katika mikutano yoyote. Ikiwa una mtu wako, wewe mwenyewe unamjua ni wako, mambo ya makelele ya kufanya vurugu, sisi hatungependa.
Kidogo also advised Kenyans to promote peace, unity and harmony.
Kuna watoto hapa, kuna vijana, kuna wamama. Hatutaki waweze kuumia kwa sababu ya mambo ya siasa. Siasa itakuja na itaenda. Lakini ikiwa mtapigana, nyinyi wenyewe mtaumia pale. Hatutaki vurugu yoyote. Msikize kila mmoja, sikiza kila chama chochote, na wewe mwenyewe you'll make that decision come 2022.
Now 4.2 million Kenyans have so far been vaccinated against COVID-19, placing the proportion of fully vaccinated adults to 3.9%. Health CS Masimongangi says they are working towards achieving the 5.8 million target by the end of this month, as well as 10 million mark by December. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
SpiceFM. Nakuru.
All right, so what have we seen? In the last half hour or so, traffic has built up essentially in different parts of the city, but we're seeing that concentration of traffic right in the CBD this morning. Jogger Road continues to be a thing right now. Traffic going in and outbound. That whole Landis Road going towards Kamkunji and then Haile Selassie. So imagine, there's traffic coming from the Kamkunji roundabout onto Haile Selassie Avenue. There's also traffic coming from Uhuru Highway on the other end of Haile Selassie Avenue. And where do they meet? In the middle. And so there's a lot of traffic in the city this morning. We're also seeing it building up on the Thika Superhighway, spilling out from the Greater Thika Road, also from Outer Ring onto. And so then we have traffic in both directions. Kiambu Road, there was nothing. And now, poof, there is a lot of traffic on the road this morning, then joining with Muthaiga Square. Coming into the city, we're still seeing a lot of activity. Schools have opened. Folks are still traveling, getting their kids across the country to go to school. And so we see that will affect traffic at least for a couple more days. So watch out for that. Aerodrome Road, then connecting with the Uhuru Highway. That also is building up quite some. Okay, traffic hour in a bit. And it's already quite busy this Wednesday. Let's keep an eye on things. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127. Let's keep things moving.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
8 minutes after
the
7.
Only
Good
way
morning.
To start
How
your
are
day.
you doing? This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It is The Situation Room. Happy Wednesday, 13th day of October, 2021. CT has the day's proverb.
Ehoya yanula.
Ehoya yanula.
The patient animal fattens.
Evans Okalo, our resident translator of Luya proverbs, says Ehoya is patience, Yanula is smart, attractive.
So the patient one becomes nice, beautiful.
Well, remember, this is an African proverb.
So which of those two words is cow?
No.
The patient animal.
Patient animal.
A human being is an animal.
Ehoya is patience.
And it's interesting.
Yanula is smart.
It's true.
Evans,
you were going to say in
what
African...
is where is animal, where is cow in that whole Ehoya Yanula?
All right, just hold that thought.
See, go with the
what are you
imagery.
saying?
Go with the imagery.
Why cow?
Can
Why
we
not
just ignore Eric for just 3 seconds?
It's okay.
Yes,
You
now.
were
Say
about
what you
to
want
say
to say.
Africans, when we talk about a thing being beautiful, it has been fattened.
Yes.
And I think of the Efik tribe in Nigeria where they have
Yes.
fattening rooms for
Yes.
brides to be.
Yes.
Because the culture was that, the fatter, the more butter you look like, the more beautiful you are. And the man is not going to choose the thin, skinny, So if she's nice and plump, very happy, that's the one they'll choose.
You want
so
flesh.
The one, it takes time.
Very
so they're in
good.
these fattening rooms. What? They're in these fattening rooms for like 6 months before they are presented to, the willing suitors. So I hear what you're saying.
Ehoya
Yanula.
Yanula.
It's
A patient bride fattens.
I think we should.
Who put in the cow there? There's no cow in these two words.
It's animal, Baba.
Imagery, Baba.
But there's no animal. Ehoya is patience.
Yes.
Yanula is smart.
Yeah, but smart can't fatten patient.
Yeah, but who says it's cow? Who says
Okay,
it's animal?
animal.
Why not human? You've
The
just
human
been
is
told.
an animal.
No. In Africa,
Actually-
humans are not animals.
Eric now has become a literary critic.
Please leave him alone.
So he's decided, okay, now, let us now look at this
Even
word.
when he understands the meaning.
Oh, no. I think the meaning he got, but
Yeah.
let's not detract from it. If you are translating this from the perspective of the English language, he's absolutely right.
Of course he is.
But even the English language has innuendo and suggestion.
And nuance.
And nuance. English language. Otherwise known in your backyard as Igrich.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ehoya Yanula.
Yeah.
A patient cow fattens. Very good. So, yesterday, impatient cow decided something else. She decided something else. The case at the ICJ. Somalia went to the International Court of Justice and it was seeking a resolution on the maritime border dispute with Kenya. There has been a dispute. They reported that there is a dispute, and despite various protests from the Kenyan government at various stages, we ended up where we ended up yesterday, where the judges said, okay, so Kenya, you say that the line should go this way. Somalia, you say the line should go this way. So if we look at that, it forms a triangle. What we're going to do is we're going to split that triangle into two. So we'll not give you the Somali your line. We'll not give you Kenyans your line. This is it. And at the same time, Kenya was saying, look, we've had conversations with Somalia since as far back as the 70s. We have had agreement. we have had conversations going on here, even before coming here. We are in the middle of conversations. We've had the African Union even intervening on this particular matter. Just let us handle this matter the way we're handling it. Hii ni maneno ya kinyumbani, wacha to deal nayo kinyumbani. God said, imekuja kotini, ni maneno ya sheria. Kinyumbani is your own story. So, it was decided the way it was decided. How did we end up here? The chronology of how the case progressed. May 31st, 2013, this is just soon after President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto have assumed office on April 9th, 2013. President Kenyatta's administration released a joint statement with Somalia to the effect that the two countries would work towards demarcating the Indian Ocean area to everybody's satisfaction. 1 month later, Somalia reversed its position, saying it had no interest in entering fresh talks over the border demarcation. To resolve this dispute, both countries were to lay their claims before the before the Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf. In 2009, the two countries signed a memorandum of understanding to the effect that neither party would object to the Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf submissions. Kenya started pushing for bilateral talks at the time in a bid to resolve the dispute. February 2014, DP William Ruto led a Kenyan delegation in talks with Somalia aimed at diffusing rising displeasure from the Mogadishu government. The talks were to be the first of several meetings to have an amicable resolution to the dispute that now threatened to escalate into an all-out war. Kenya initially listed discussion of the 2009 MOU at the talks, led by the DP Ruto, but Somalia protested and the matter was left out of the agenda. Alongside the DP on the negotiation table were the officials from the Attorney General's office, the Kenya International Boundaries Office. Prime Minister Abdiweli Sheikh Ahmed had travelled from Mogadishu for these talks. Follow-up meeting held in July 2014. Once again, not much progress. By this time, Kenya is confident that Somalia would change its mind and agree to discussions on the 2009 MOU that had been signed. Kenyan officials were expected to travel to Mogadishu for further talks between August 25th and 26th, 2014. Nobody went to Somalia. August 28th, 2014. Somalia held that there was not much to come out of the bilateral talks and opted to go to the International Court of Justice. While Somalia was preparing to put up the fight of its life at the UN court, Kenya was still optimistic that talks would resolve this dispute. In a move that cooked Kenya's goose, the Nairobi government agreed to participate in the ICJ case. Had Kenya refused to recognize this ICJ jurisdiction at the time, the case may have gone a different route. From then on, Kenya kept on delaying the inevitable, seeking adjournment after adjournment. On January 2017, ICJ dismissed Kenya's application, challenging the court's jurisdiction to hear the case, arguing that negotiations had been going on in line with an MOU which was filed with the UN 7 years earlier. 2019, Kenya asked for more time to seek a new legal team after the lawyers that were there left. When the case was to come up for hearing in March this year, Kenya requested for a fourth adjournment, citing a missing map crucial to the case and the need to wait until it's safe to have in-person hearings. The ICJ declined to postpone the case any further. Then, that's when Kenya pulled out in March. In September, actually. Right? Mm-hmm. That is a chronology given by the nation. The Standard also says this is a decade-long effort to resolve this dispute that ended up hitting a dead end. It also talks about all those meetings that took place, even going to the African Union. And the African Union even writing and saying the AU strongly calls on the Republic of Kenya to pursue and intensify their engagement with a view of finding an amicable and sustainable solution to their maritime boundary dispute. In this regard, the AU calls parties to refrain from any action that may threaten the existing good neighborliness between the two countries. We sent our ambassador, Catherine Mwangi, who is Kenya's permanent representative to the EU. She explained that several attempts by Kenya to have bilateral discussions on this matter had been rebuffed by Somalia. She sought the intervention of the AU's PSC, which is the Peace and Security Council, in order to facilitate the two parties to reach a negotiated agreement. However, the Somali delegate, Abdulkadir Ahmed Khair, who was the Foreign Affairs Minister at the time, expressed displeasure at having the dispute brought before the Security Council while it was a matter before the International Court of Justice. matter has gone left, right, center. It has ended up where we saw it ending up yesterday. Clearly, attempts at having back office talks or back channel conversations didn't work. There seems to have been a point where maybe Somalia felt that it was not being taken seriously, or Somalia was all along intent on seeking a certain direction, and Kenya was intent on sending a certain direction.
The question I asked earlier on still stands there. What really is going on here? You know, this particular part of the Indian Ocean didn't suddenly come into existence when the Somali government was formed. This part of the Indian Ocean has been there from the days of Said Barre. It has existed from the time when Somali was fragmented. It has always been there. And what is also not in dispute is that these waters have for the longest time been known to be very rich in aquatic life, in seafood, in fish, and other. It's extremely rich.
Mm-hmm.
But the discussion about this particular part of the Indian Ocean has also been about mineral wealth, which includes oil wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I take the view that up until very recently, and even as we currently speak, Somali as a nation is more of a federal nation than it is a unitary nation under one flag. So, what does that tell me? What it tells me is that people who've been in charge of the various parts of Somaliland have been able to make decisions on their own as they saw fit at the time, and they still do. So, you're talking about the sea, you're talking about authorization of the boundaries. The question has to be asked again, what has actually happened? Because we are assuming that the sea simply remained the sea and everything just remained constant. I don't think so. If a layman like myself has heard mention of mineral wealth, there are people who have even better knowledge than that.
Mm-hmm.
And what stops them? I'm asking the question. From even having sold blocks of that particular area to interested countries, knowing very well that this could be explored. What stops them? Remember, it's the sea.
Yep. The other question that also emerges is Kenya and Tanzania agreed on that boundary many years ago. Kenya and Somalia have never properly agreed on that boundary.
No. But has there been a dispute as the one we have now?
The thing is, it's telling the fact that there was never an agreement. When Kenya was seeking an agreement with Tanzania, and they agreed, and they both agreed this is how our line shall go, the conversation with Somalia was, all right, so let's just, agree in principle, gentlemanly agreement. We shall have a conversation in future, blah, blah, blah. That tells you something.
But Eric,
that Kenya and Somalia, even those years,
it was contentious.
Did not have some sort of agreement.
The question I'm asking, right now,
Kenya and Somalia
within each agreeing with each other on how to go about
this. There's a point see, right now, there's a recognized government of Somalia.
Yes. In the 70s, there was a recognized government of Somalia.
Yes, there was.
And that's the time when that first agreement was being mooted.
Yes, but when
Kenya and Tanzania were discussing, it was the Jomo Kenyatta's government and Mwalimu Julius Nyerere's government.
Yes.
Jomo Kenyatta's government, and who were the leaders in Somalia at the point? There was a government.
There was Said Barre.
Yes, and they did not have that conversation the same way they had a conversation.
No, they didn't. But did they have a disagreement?
They didn't have a disagreement. They did not have an agreement.
They didn't have an agreement. But I think I can see what you're saying. That even then, there were the simmerings of this kind of confrontation. That it already kind of started there. That we can't really agree on something. And we know that it's contentious. Or we know that it is bound to bring about some kind of, the drama that we've seen most recently.
Yep.
So what happened at that time is that we're just going to not discuss it for now. Going to put it on the back burner and just continue. For whom we can agree with and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. You want to go this far? You want to go this far? That's all right. We don't have a problem. But we can see that this is going to be an issue.
Yeah.
So rather than deal with it now and go into full-fledged conflict, we're just going to park it for now.
But
you continue doing what you're doing. I continue doing what I'm doing. We'll deal with the drama when it comes.
Remember, we are talking about soon after we've come out of the shifter war,
Right.
where an issue of borders was a big one.
Was the center of contention at that time.
There was a proper war that was actually fought
Yes.
over contentious border
Yes.
between these two countries.
Yes.
So you can see now this one. So the shifter war we finished. Our border is clear. This other one, if we go again into a conversation, we're not agreeing, we get back into a war again. Do we want that? All right, so let's not fight over this.
Right.
So we shall discuss.
And
Okay.
they're still licking their wounds because the shifter wars was a big deal. It was whole chunks of Kenya, essentially, that people were saying, we're going to cede, right?
Yep.
We're going to cede and go to this other country. So you can imagine both sides are still licking their wounds from this conflict. And then now we're going to discuss the maritime boundaries. No. Let's just leave it. Let's heal from this and go about our business where we can agree and say that we're going to be all right with these maritime boundaries. Let's go on. But to go into another full-fledged conflict was just not on the plate at that time. Some could argue that it should have been dealt with, pull it off, rip off the Band-Aid and just finish the thing once and for all.
Deal with the
Deal
issue.
with it right there and then.
Actually,
Many would have argued that would have been the best thing to do. But now here we are, 14 years later.
From a military perspective, that ought to be the thing that you do.
What? Fight it out.
No, you have already shown you are the victor. You have a vantage point. That's when you push.
Grab everything.
No, don't grab. You even when you get into discussions, you
Stamp
are
your
discussing.
authority.
Yes, you are discussing it from a position of strength.
Right.
Okay. Militarily speaking, that is how it is done. But we weren't there. I wasn't there on that table, and I haven't read very much about how it is that decision was arrived at. But what I do know is this: whenever you find an absence of what you call a concrete decision, what it means is that there's a tacit understanding between certain people. Now, the agreement such as the one you referred to between Kenya and Tanzania, that is now a national agreement. Now, when two people have agreed or a group of people have agreed, yes, they have agreed. But now when you bring the discussion to the national level, it takes on a completely different twist. Now, up until the time when Somalia had a government, the discussion that we're having now probably wasn't possible in the way that we're having it now. But it doesn't detract from the question that I've been asking. What really is going on here? What really is going on here?
So what do you feel? You feel there's external pressure coming in, playing?
I feel there's a lot that has happened here that I don't know about, but this is my feeling and my thinking. People don't go around disputing over just territories for the heck and for the sake of territories. There must be something within that territory that is worth having a little disagreement over.
Oh, sure. Well, we're looking at the potentially mineral-rich resource that is here. And even though nobody has gone into the deeds of exploration, even at this point, it is clear that there's something that everybody wants to hang on to. Look, leave aside the whole sovereign regional bragging rights and all of this about, having or garnering more territory. Obviously, there's something here that would be advantageous commercially to both sides.
Actually, there's evidence for that.
Yeah. So
because exploration for minerals is not what it once was.
We've seen people go to war, bloody war, for less.
Infinitely less.
Yeah. So you can imagine it's like the two dogs who are fighting over a little piece. Nobody's going to relent because you know the advantage of having that bone at the end of the day.
You know what you're saying reminds me of a certain part, the border of Germany and France, a place called Alsace-Lorraine. If you look at those maps, you may consider it insignificant. The tiffs that arose during the Second World War, some of it during the First World War, and the things that happened in that particular area, it's what gave it the prominence. What am I saying? People do not need much to go to war.
No.
All they require is the excuse. But this one is not a call to war. No. This is a call to profit. Modern technology using satellites can inform you of minerals. It can tell you, given the formation of land in this particular area, the contours and the turns, and the likelihood is high that this particular area is. So that is not in doubt. Remember, sometimes it wasn't even this year, it was last year. We discussed this issue of the Gulf and the interest, as Eric had mentioned clearly, of the Scandinavian countries, the Middle East countries, the EU, the interest in this particular area. Okay? We even had somebody prominent coming to talk about it. This, Somalia is next door. Literally next door. So, the significance of Somalia is infinitely greater as a result of these other interests. So where does Kenya come in? Kenya is the neighbor. There are people pushing for this, and it goes beyond just the government of Somalia. There are people who have interests, and in my view...
So do they feel that their interests are best served when they are on the side of Somalia?
Yes.
Because if
yes.
there are people pushing for this, I mean, Kenya is also open for business.
No.
Come and we'll discuss biashara as well. We also have our oil blocks in undisputed waters.
We do.
In Kenya.
We do.
Open for exploration.
We do.
Why are we disputing these particular oil blocks in?
But Eric, remember, the situation in Somalia is not as stable as the situation in Kenya. You have a president fighting for relevance, fighting for position, fighting for his piece of the pie, okay? That is someone easier to deal with.
So it's easier to enter into...
Yes, it's much easier
to enter
into long-term contracts now.
If you just look at the
much easier.
It's easier to manipulate the vulnerable. Somebody who is probably looking for a place of stability, it's easier to negotiate with.
Yes,
it's easier
much easier.
to lord your authority over even, because you know that this person is likely to take the easiest solution that you give them.
They need the help.
They need the help.
Yes.
Plus, they're also in a position where look at historically what passages have done around the world.
Yes.
Right? Whether you're looking at the Americas, whether you're looking at Europe, anywhere that there was a passage to a greater land, anywhere that there was a passage to another place, whether it would then facilitate the movement of persons, the movement of trade, the movement of anything else, where there was a passage always created a bone of contention. And that's what we're looking at here. Whether you want to look at the territorial waters or whether you want to look at the access that is granted to other places by virtue of that area. Bone of contention, whichever way you choose to look at it. So who do you think folks are likely to negotiate with right now? It's Somalia.
Well, one way of looking at it is that way. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. So, case has gone to court, and then we've heard what the courts have said. President Uhuru Kenyatta has basically come out, and I'm going to read you the statement that the president released yesterday while he was in New York, while he was the chairman of the UN Security Council. President Uhuru Kenyatta of the Republic of Kenya,
of course,
released a statement yesterday from New York in the sidelines after chairing a very busy meeting of the UN Security Council. They were discussing matters of Kenya. He came out and he said some things. Just first paragraph, and then I'm going to tell you what else he said. While Kenya is not surprised at the decision, it is profoundly concerned by the import of the decision and its implications for the Horn of Africa region and international law generally. At the outset, Kenya wishes to, in bold, indicate that it, in bold, rejects in totality and does not recognize the findings of this decision. Basically, President Uhuru Kenyatta has said, some judges have said what? Forget about them. 7:30. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
Were you born for the camera? Are you the presenter with the most? Well, get ready because we're on the lookout for the freshest TV presenters there are. So if you think you got the goods, jump right on because you could be the next face of KTN Home's Straight Up Show. We are looking for one male and female presenter, aged between 20 years and 25 years with a social media presence across any of the social media handles, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and or YouTube. A must for you to like the KTN Home social media pages, and you must be fluent in English, Swahili, or Sheng. To participate, post your TV presenter audition video on KTN Home social media handles, that is Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and remember to use the hashtag #StraightUpTalentSearch. Could it be you? The stage awaits.
24/7 around the world non-stop. This is Spice FM.
From 2019, she has stayed with 6 different people. You know, we are saving money. There's no need for him to be renting in this side.
And I'm renting this side.
No.
Yeah.
And sometimes this is an avenue for women to con men. Let me just be very honest with you people. Today we are talking about performing marriage duties while you're still dating. Why are you paying rent and this is not your wife?
Yo.
We need to start holding each other accountable for those people who are dating. Learn to buy your own bed.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between work, love, and play. The Adults in the Room is the only show on radio dedicated to educating Kenyans on how they can stay winning in life and in love. Text the word adult.
Those cloudy conditions continue in Nairobi this
22840
morning at 14 degrees. We'll see highs of 24, coming back down to lows of 14. It's mostly cloudy in Nakuru at 17, highs of 25 and lows of 14. Mostly cloudy at 15 in Nyeri, highs of 24 and lows of 15. Eldoret, it's raining now at 17, highs of 23, lows of 14. And looking into Mombasa, clear conditions at 24. That'll be the low for today, going to highs of 30. 30 will also be the high in a mostly cloudy Malindi at 26, coming down to lows of 25. Kisumu is partly sunny now at 18, highs of 29, while in Kakamega it's partly sunny at 18, highs of 27 and lows of 15. Kampala, sunny conditions at 18, lows of 17 and highs of 28, while it's mostly clear in Dar es Salaam. We'll go to highs of 30 and lows of 23. Johannesburg is sunny at 16, highs of 28 and lows of 15, while it's mostly clear in Lagos. At 26, we'll see lows of 25 and highs of 32. It's cloudy in Kinshasa at 23. That'll be the low for today, going to highs of 33.
Chilled Spice.
All right, we're right in the middle of traffic hour this morning, and it has really built up, especially going into the middle of the CBD today. We're looking at a little bit of reprieve on the Thika Superhighway, but it's still red all the way from the drive-in out through to the city centre. So Thika Road is one long snake of traffic all the way. And we're also seeing Kiambu Road stretching even further towards Coffee Gardens. And doesn't look too exciting. Everybody, slow pace, up and up into the city. We're looking at traffic around Ngara out through the CBD this morning. All roads lead to where? They lead to the CBD. All right, what's happening on Langata Road? Well, I'll tell you what's not happening. The movement of traffic, it's very slow. Heading towards the T-Mall roundabout. And then onto Uhuru Highway. Uhuru Highway has been a thing for the last couple of days, going towards Haile Selassie, out towards Westland, in and outbound, coming off from Gong Road as well. There's traffic everywhere you look, folks. This one we have to take it slowly. Please be careful. The roads are about to get a little bit wet with the forecast of rain. So take it easy. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127. Let's keep it moving this morning while safe.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
It's
Nairobi.
25 minutes to 8. So, decision time for President Uhuru Kenyatta and the government of the Republic of Kenya on what steps to take next. Let me read you excerpts of the statement that President Uhuru Kenyatta released yesterday after this justice was delivered by the ICJ. The decision was delivered by the International Court of Justice. So the president first of all says, Kenya, as an avid supporter of the rule of law, accepted the court's jurisdiction through a declaration in 1965 with an objective clearly outlined of certain excluded matters. At the time, Kenya never imagined that the ICJ would violate the declaration to the extent of imposing its mandate over expressly excluded matters. And then he says, in an unfortunate development of the last decade, a trend has emerged of some supposedly international organizations being deployed as political tools against African countries. Sadly, this malfeasance has infected the ICJ, leading it to impose jurisdiction on a dispute it had neither jurisdiction nor competence. In addition, the court did not permit the use, let alone the exhaustion, of regional dispute resolution mechanisms, despite the existence of a robust African Union legal framework on border issues and dispute settlement. So he says, even with all these flaws, Kenya participated in the initial proceedings out of its traditional respect for the rule of law, if only to make its case that the court had neither jurisdiction nor competence over this dispute. However, the court decided in an inexplicable decision delivered in February 2017 that it would hear and determine this dispute. Despite the founded objections, this decision was clearly erroneous. President Uhuru Kenyatta continues to say, faced by the above substantive and a persistent procedural unfairness from a biased bench and the denial of the right to a fair hearing, Kenya was forced to withdraw its participation in the public hearings on the 14th of March this year. In fact, Kenya doubts that any state would have appeared at all in a case such as this. He's saying, basically, us accepting to go and argue that, you don't have jurisdiction, it's not yet time for you, you don't have the competence to deal with this matter. Other countries would not even have recognized that. But Kenya likes to play by the international rule of law. He continues to say, further, based on the ICJ's improprieties and to avert the risk of another imposed jurisdiction, on the 24th of September this year, Kenya withdrew its recognition of the compulsory jurisdiction of the ICJ and will only reconsider this withdrawal when pragmatic reforms are instituted in the administration of international justice. Kenya calls on the international community to create an enabling environment for the pursuit of a negotiated settlement. Kenya and Somalia are neighboring states with a common border and communities with shared social, cultural, and religious practices. This decision is in the circumstances a zero-sum game, which will strain the relations between the two countries. It will also reverse the social, political, and economic gains and potentially aggravate the peace and security situation in the fragile Horn of Africa nation. He's basically telling them, you guys are pushing us to war, and this is wrong. Kenya, like other independent countries, possesses a determined geographical territory. As a devoted member of the United Nations Security Council, as well as the African Union's Peace and Security Council, we beseech the rest of the family of nations to appreciate and respect our inherent right to protect, by all available means, our territory. And that statement, that part of the statement is in bold. He says, please respect our right to protect by all available means our territory. Nonetheless, we are committed to a diplomatic solution of the current impasse. In this regard, Kenya is a key proponent of the respect for the principle of subsidiarity as a catalyst for African solutions for African problems. We resolve this matter through institutions of the African Union, such as the AU border program and its peace and security architecture, in addition to other bilateral agreements. So he says, forget that court, we are going to pursue it through the AU. The AU has mechanisms and institutions that have been created to deal with such matters between neighbors. Why are we going to some Hague-based court? Then he addresses Kenyans. He says, fellow Kenyans, when I became president on the 9th of April 2013, I took an oath to protect the territorial integrity of the Republic of Kenya. I do not intend to abrogate my solemn oath, and I will do everything possible as president and commander-in-chief to preserve the territory of this our great republic and bequeath the same intact and unencumbered to the next president when my term expires in less than a year's time. As your president, I want to assure you of my commitment to solve this issue amicably and urge you all to remain calm as my government remains fully seized of the matter. He has told the international community, you guys, first of all, respect the fact that we have a border. We have not created this border for ourselves. We have actually found a border that is internationally recognized. And we have a right, just like you all, to protect our border by any means necessary. And then he tells us, we're going to pursue the AU route. Amicable, peaceful, and everything. However, we remain resolute to protect our territorial integrity. So the question is, what options then does Kenya have? Right now, Somalia has received this. Somalia could go and say, we have gone to an international court of justice. It's a UN body. We have received this decision. We are going now to enforce the decision of that court.
Yes.
Kenya is going to the AU. Kenya has been to the AU and Somalia said, AU kitu gani? We are going to Hague.
If only it were that simple. If only it were that simple. Because we are talking about a situation where the monarchs of the Middle East were having difficulties among themselves, quarreling. Abu Dhabi on one side, Qatar on one side, Qatar siding with Ankara, that is Turkey, and then Abu Dhabi siding with Saudi. This quarrel now, then we get to the Gulf here. This is where we are. You have an election, all right? Somalia says them they are neutral. This quarrel that people have in the Middle East, them they are not involved at all. They're neutral. Somebody says, but excuse me, Mr. Farmajo, just your election campaign funds. A lot of
Where
this
did it
money,
come from?
A lot of it seems to have come from
one neutral side.
Yes, this other neutral side. Okay, says no, we are still neutral. Okay, now this organization called the Gulf Cooperation Council, and the disagreement. You know, these people are disagreeing. They have their own council, but the disagreement continues. Now, this is what happens when people now want to extend territorial powers through influence. Okay, now you tell me. If it now comes to the Horn of Africa into Somalia, and then it is now said that these are the countries who are not Qatar or Turkey are supporting what are referred to as the factions, the federal states. And people are saying there's evidence. These are discussions that are taking place. We have a simmering dispute that is growing, and the quarrel in the Middle East has come, bang, pop, and plonked itself into Somaliland. And it's not going anywhere. Because those factions, those federal, the so-called breakaway unit, those guys are suddenly not going to give away their territory tomorrow or the day after. Okay? So this particular disagreement seems to be with us for quite some time. Now, if you have a disagreement in your backyard that you can't handle, what do? Do you focus on it, or do you take the attention of your people to some other place? We are a far easier target to quarrel with.
Divert the attention, for
yes,
sure.
We are far, far easier to quarrel with. Yes.
I think we cannot run away from the fact that if you look at the political struggles that Somalia has had for the longest time, Kenya was always involved in many things, whether it was the institution of peace, whether it was, constant deliberations, many of which took place in Kenya. So I can understand to an extent the shock that would come about from the Kenyan side when I said, hold on a minute. We have actually been in a long taken stance of trying to protect stability in this country. We would not have expected to see that you took this in this manner. So there's obviously that now call later on when it is like, you know what? We have dealt with you in this manner previously. Historically, we've always kind of like held your hand in the region. We didn't expect that you would take us essentially to the principal's office. But now that you've done that, now let us remind you that the same hand that was extended to you in terms of protection is the same hand that would operate just as strongly when it comes to protecting the borders of the country, of Kenya. So do not be mistaken in any way, any fashion, that we would not take this seriously. However, also looking at how countries regard institutions, whether it is a global institution or not, we're seeing that now there's also the call for homegrown or continent-grown solutions.
Yep.
We're not taking this thing to somebody else who doesn't understand the intricacies of how we deal here, the intricacies of our sovereignty, the intricacies of our nationalism. So what we're going to do, we take it home, the people who understand us. I see the imagery for me is shouting very loudly here, that we're always going back to that place where we say, you know what? You don't understand our issues. Why do we come to you? You who, in many cases, you say, we found that border there. These borders that were demarcated internationally from the very beginning. Now we're coming back to you for us to fight over how they should be split yet again.
And you seem biased.
Yes, and you seem biased in that jurisdiction.
In fact, that's underline that part.
Yeah.
You seem biased. You already have a preconceived outcome.
And you are the ones who instituted those borders in the first place. If you want to look at it very clearly, how it was divvied up, this is how it was, and we found it like that. So we said, okay, we're going with it. Now we come back to you to say, divide them in a different manner. No. Let's go back to now the resident adjudicators on the continent and say, these are the guys that we're coming to, and we want to do it amicably. But remember, the same force that was able to bring stability, or at least was able to prefer stability in Somalia, is the same force that we will deal with. Don't be mistaken that we will not do anything or everything within our power to fight to retain that which is ours.
You know, when you talk about the complexities of the situation, it is indeed complex. Because on the one hand, if you understand the relationship that Kenya has had with Somalia, one could argue it has been very amicable. Okay? You talk about the elections of the president after all the turmoil, after Said Barre was removed from power. The Somali parliament, for the longest time, one could argue that the government of Somalia functioned from Kenya. Now, the relationship has been such that it was believed we get along just fine. But remember, reality of the situation, that's perception. Reality is this. Somali isn't just some ragtag country.
No, it isn't.
No, it is a country that is rich in resources, and people know this. And because of its position in the Horn of Africa, strategically, it is a very, very important country. It doesn't matter what you say.
For the region and the world.
Yes, it is extremely important. So people who... No one is going to sit back and just let Somali or the Somalis make decisions. No. They want to be part and parcel of that decision-making process. And what we are seeing is the international community trying to be part and parcel of that process.
Exactly.
And we have been drawn into it.
It's all of them coming in. So there's what's happening in the Gulf. And then there's what's happening in other parts of the world. In other European capitals that are looking at the mineral wealth that is under there and the rights to get some of these blocks for exploration purposes and then what they get out of it. Because whereas the GCC issues and Turkey would come in onto the whole affair of running and the stability of Somalia and who's in charge of the country of Somalia, there's a commercial side that is looking at this particular maritime dispute, which brings in now all these other people who has an interest. Can we come together? Can we form a cabal of people with similar interests and push a certain agenda? And that's why we come back to that question. So with all that, knowing that we are not just dealing with our neighbor Somalia, we are dealing with our neighbor Somalia who's being influenced by their cousin, by somebody else, right? What's the best way to approach this particular matter? There are those who would say, you know what, the best thing now for us to do is we upgraded the Manda base the other day into a proper Navy facility.
A fully fledged naval base.
In the last couple of years, President Uhuru Kenyatta, what has he done? He has also created a Kenya Coast Guard. What is the purpose of the Kenya Coast Guard? Among the others, it's this one, to save our territories.
Right.
We have improved our naval power. All these things. So should we deploy them for this? Because clearly we're working towards this. Should we now deploy them and say, from today, we recognize our border as going, what was that word again? Longitudinal, whatever.
Latitude expansion.
That our border is this way, and we were going to protect our border at this line. Let somebody else come and say, no, Somalia's border is this way, according to the ICJ. And we tell them we don't know who ICJ is. Go and ask the AU. We are waiting for the AU to...
We are.
Yes. Should we deploy today? Or should we just remain, whatever you're doing, as we go to the AU and seek to have the Somali government come and sit at the table at the AU Peace and Security Council?
You know what complicates these issues, Eric, often, is, again, when you say all politics is local, it is.
Yeah.
Because you look at the Somali nation nestled within the boundaries of what we call Somaliland, all right? The whole of it. People forget that the community or the so-called Somali nation as a whole, there's an entire community in Ethiopia with their own province. There's an entire community in Kenya. Okay? Now, you will find that among these communities, people are related. People have connections. And the feeling among many people, and this is where probably Kenya gets involved, and that's when we get involved now in what we call local politics. People who are Kenyans but have relatives in Somali, okay? Whether they like it or not, will be involved in the politics of Somaliland. Simply because these are your people. Now, all it requires is for someone to support a certain side as opposed to another. And if that person of influence happens to be Kenyan, that's it. As far as they're concerned, this is the position of the Kenya government. And yet it is not the position of the Kenya government. It's local politics. Local. Literally local. Did we not have a situation where we called our ambassador and somebody also called her that?
Yes. a few months ago, this is what happened.
Yep.
Ambassadors were recalled here and there.
Yes.
They're back, but there was a tiff.
Yes. And what was the tiff about?
Oh, elections. Oh, this and the other.
Yes, the influence. Exactly.
Cargo planes flying.
So what should we do?
Continue.
Henry Kamala says, if you want us to come out with placards to demonstrate, Mr. President, I'm ready. Hii ni kunyanyaswa. Redrawing Kilimanjaro area, limited Lake Victoria waters. Now this. No way.
No. Let's continue talking.
But we are not talking. The person who was supposed to be talking with has gone to court.
Went
and
through the ICJ.
They have a decision.
The thing is,
do they want to talk?
One, Mr. Farmajo is between a rock and a hard place. You're running a country, and your own countrymen tell you, well, you're not running the country, you're running that little piece that is that particular area. And us, we're running our own little outfit here.
But remember,
yes,
this pressure for a clear demarcation of this border did not even start with Farmajo.
No, it didn't.
It started before him.
Yes, it did.
Right? It started 2 presidents before him.
Yes.
So that means the Somali state is determined to have the line demarcated.
I am of the
And
view.
one of the reasons why we did not then agree, why they did not acquiesce to our 1979 conversation, is because the Somali state does not believe that that line should come the way we are saying.
Actually, I'm glad you should say that. And I am of a different opinion. That it isn't the Somali state. It's the vested interest, because it isn't one person and it isn't this unified unit. When you have a country who have leaders whom we derogatorily refer to as warlords, they have as much say. Those fellows in the regions, they have as much say as Farmajo has in the area that he's in. Now, what am I saying? I am saying that this is not an agreement you're going to arrive at with one person. That's what I'm saying. And I'm also saying that divvying up this so-called area, there are people who demarcated that area and did what they did long before Farmajo came onto the scene. We are dealing with the after effects of decisions and positions that people had taken before.
Yep.
By the time other countries are coming in so willingly,
Yep.
Discussions are taking place.
And by the time Farmajo or whichever president decides to take this to the ICJ
yes,
to maintain this hardline stance, is because they also know that internally
they know.
There are many people who are behind this particular decision.
They know.
And the position that's being taken. And that's why I'm saying state. It's not just an individual who's occupying Villa Somalia today.
Or Castle Somalia.
Yes, it is the person.
There's some understanding that they've arrived at.
It's a position
of
and they've said,
it's a position of the country. Just like today, President Uhuru Kenyatta is not the one who will come and tell us, you know what, it's okay, guys, let that line just go. No.
You know something?
The decision goes further than President Uhuru Kenyatta, the person.
Why don't we look at how that decision affects them? You see, if you carve off a larger area for yourselves, you know what it means? Everybody is able to share a larger piece. That one is not difficult to get people around and say, okay, no, let's draw this line here.
Sure.
It makes more sense.
0719-012-600. We can take 1 or 2 calls. What do you think we should do? So the president says one thing that is for sure is that Kenya rejects in totality and does not recognize the findings in the decision by the International Court of Justice. We are not even going to consider whatever they have told us. What we are going to do is we are going to protect territorial integrity, and we are going to go for African solutions to African problems. Any external person can go and wait out there. We'll come and tell them what we've decided. What is it that we should do then? Pursue through the AU, go and start protecting our territorial boundary? What should we do? Karanja in Naivasha, good morning.
Good morning, Eric, City and Do.
Good morning.
Now, I agree with City Muga. If I could be the president today, I could have gone to Nyeri today, and every Somali resident who is living in Nyeri should have deported to his country. Number 2, let the president close Kakuma and the Dadaab refugees, because We see this is a hideout, and this is the interest that the people they are bringing here. Unless the president do that, now, things will go haywire. Thank you very much.
All right. So he says basically just close all diplomatic ties and relations with Somalia immediately. In fact, any Somali national in this country, a citizen of Somalia, get out.
I think that we're pushing it just a little bit. I don't think you want to put your foot up that far at this point. I still think that there's a lot that can be achieved with dialogue, and that's what diplomatic relations are all about. And I think even listening to the hard stance that President Uhuru Kenyatta has presented as clearly the country's position, there's clearly room for dialogue. There's room for negotiation. There's room to be able to understand both sides. Had it been otherwise, those naval bases that you talked about, for example, those strengthenings that you would have seen action. But
that is action.
No. I'm saying you would have seen that people have been deployed immediately to begin to guard. That's what normally happens. Before, you don't even attack anybody. You make your position and then you put people in place who would stand and start. And I don't think you've not seen that immediate action. You've seen a preparation. You've seen a strengthening. You've not seen a moving in, because there's still the invitation for us to have a chat about it, right? So by saying that you're going to use the resident jurisdiction in the name of the AU, that means, okay, guys, there's still another table at which we can meet. Let's have this conversation. And also kind of egging them along to say, you know what, guys, you actually want to talk to us like this. Because if you want us to display our sovereignty, we can.
Let's pick a final call in this hour. Mohammed in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Thank you for a great show. So the question is, you see, going back to history, we are living through certain borders that have been demarcated by various parties over the years. When the Europeans carved up Africa. Well, what legitimacy does those borders have? Where do we stop drawing the line and saying, okay, now that we have borders, let us progress forward? International law seems to be skewed for those who wrote those laws.
Right.
And I think that the African
Mohammed,
Union...
if you don't mind, just allow me to ask you, because we only have 30 seconds, we're going to the top of the hour in the news. Sure. What would you have Kenya do if you were the president?
We go for all guns blazing with the African Union, keep Africa's problem African. The West is waning in its regional power, and let Africa's dawn begin even stronger, and let this be a point that the African Union is superior to these so-called international courts of justice and ICC and
Point
this, that,
made.
and the other. It's time we made our stand.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mohammed. It's top of the hour. It's 8 o'clock. Time for the news. Good morning.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asseto. The government says that despite its effort to enforce peace and stability in Laikipia County Hadiko bandits continue to take advantage of the prevailing drought situation in neighboring counties to commit criminal activities. Interior CS Fred Matiang'i, however, says that this won't be tolerated as the government has directed an immediate enhancement of the ongoing security operation, which will see to it that additional special forces and equipment deployed in the region. He has further ordered non-residents of Laikipia County to leave the area with immediate effect. The unrest has led to the death of more than 8 people, torching of more than 40 houses, and displacement of hundreds of families. ODM leader Raila Odinga has expressed optimism that next year's elections will be free and fair, despite Odinga having long complained about vote rigging, accusing the Electoral Commission and even the judiciary of not being transparent. Odinga now believes that the results of next year's elections will be fair. Odinga says he is confident President Uhuru Kenyatta will ensure that the election is conducted peacefully.
Never again will Kenyans fight after an election. We'll ensure that elections are held which are free and fair. And these coming elections of 2022, if Uhuru is the president, I can assure you it will be very free and fair. Because Uhuru is as committed to the handshake as I am committed.
As the general election fast approach, coalitions among parties will be a common thing. The One Kenya Alliance welcomed a new party to the team, Kadu Asili, who say they joined Oka with the intention of forming the next government. Former Malindi MP Lucas Baitha is the party leader.
It is because most of those other alliances or non-alliances are very rigid. They just believe in them and them only.
NC leaders Musalia Mudavadi of ANC and Kalonzo Musyoka of Wiper expressed their readiness to work with other political parties to achieve their dream.
As we approach the next election, please ask yourself that fundamental question. Who can you trust with the leadership of this country? And One Kenya is offering that platform. We are the institution, the formation that will be trusted.
Kwa hivyo wapwani wenzetu na Wakenya wenzetu tuko tayari kufanya kazi na Kadu Asili, na kama vile amesema ndugu Musalia, tuko tayari kwa wengine. Asiwe mmoja wenu anaweza kusema hao wametutangulia, hata nyinyi mwakaribishwa, na kama mkitupatia ishara twaje kule.
Homa Bay County has recorded low voter registration turnout so far. IEBC says only 4,000 new voters have registered out of the targeted 177,000. Homa Bay Governor Cyprian Awiti, together with the other leaders, have however encouraged the youth who are yet registered voters to come out in large numbers and register.
We can be able to increase our numbers in terms of Kura and Kipande. We want to ensure that Kura mopping starts from house to house.
That all leaders of Homa Bay County have resolved that they will unite to achieve the 650,000 strong target.
Homa Bay must move from 476,000 registered voters to 650,000 registered voters by the end of the mass registration process.
ODM Chairman John Badi, however, says that he is positive that the numbers will go up as most Kenyans show up during the last-minute rush.
And I think it's a very unfortunate characteristic that we see in this country, that people wait until the last minute is when there is mad rush towards doing what they could have done several days before. And we are concerned as leadership of this region, we are concerned as leadership of ODM. We have so many of our youths who are supposed to take or register as voters. I want to send a message first to people who are unregistered, that it is your democratic right to have a voter's card and exercise your democratic right.
Preparations for Mashujaa Day celebrations to be held in Kirinyaga County are almost complete. Interior PS Karanja Kibisha said they have already visited Wanguru Stadium and that 95% of the preparations have been achieved. For now, the stadium is expected to be handed over to the government officials who will continue working on the venue. In addition, Kibisha has indicated that Moya Town, which will be hosting the celebrations, will be cleaned up with posters inviting President Uhuru Kenyatta to be hanged from today. In addition, invitation cards have also been sent out to all prospective guests. Only 2,000 Kenyans will attend the Mashujaa Day celebrations at the venue. Now, a KDF officer continues to be treated after running over an IED believed to have been planted by Al-Shabaab terrorists between Milimani and Baure in Lamu County. In a statement, KDF spokeswoman Colonel Esther Wanjiku said the attack took place in Baure area of Boni Forest, where Kenyan troops have been conducting operations against Al-Shabaab since 2015. The officer was airlifted to Nairobi for further treatment while a major operation is being carried out against the Al-Shabaab terror group. Now, Spain will host their first series next season after World Rugby released their schedule for the HSBC World Rugby 7 2022. The new venues in Spain will temporarily replace host Sydney, Australia and Hamilton, New Zealand, after they were unable to host due to challenges associated with the COVID-19 pandemic in their region. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asseto.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Quite some on Mombasa Road this morning, in and outbound. We're also looking at North Airport Road becoming quite a thing today. Headed out towards Mbakasi, that whole feather area going towards the Donholm interchange. Quite some traffic there. Tasia, that road, the eastern bypass, Choka blocked, moving very slowly. Folks who were escaping Mombasa Road got stuck on Outer Ring. I'm very sorry. Lunga, that whole cycle of industrial area to Likoni, out onto the Likoni interchange on Mombasa Road, that is very slow. Outbound, also inbound on Mombasa Road is a thing. Into the CBD, quite hot and heavy. We're looking at Uhuru Highway still. And we're also looking at heightened traffic on Haile Selassie Avenue in both directions. So watching out for that. We're still in the middle of traffic hour, likely to see the situation for about an hour or so more. Coming off of Thika Superhighway, it's getting a little bit better, but Kiambu Road continues to be that pimple on the face. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127. Let's see how I can keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
This is
the only way to start.
The Situation Room. This is the third hour of our 4-hour show. We're here every weekday morning, Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And we always begin the hour with the day's proverb with C.T. Muga.
Yes. Ehoya yanula. The patient animal fattens.
Ehoya
yanula. That is a Western Kenyan proverb. I am not certain as to which of the many languages attributed to that particular part of the world this comes from, but I know it is from Western Kenya.
It's one of those.
It's one of those.
Ehoya yanula. Okay. Our guests this hour are two ladies. Susan Otieno is the Executive Director of ActionAid International Kenya, and she's joined by Lina Mora, who is a Local Rights Programs Coordinator, ActionAid International Kenya. The higher you go, the shorter the title.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you.
We are glad that you've joined us this morning. You heard that proverb and, you were just smiling, Susan. Why? You relate?
Sorry?
You relate to the proverb?
The proverb? Yeah, I have Luya blood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he didn't pronounce it well, and I equally can't. But if he did pronounce it well, I would have picked it immediately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here goes. Nah, I'm joking.
No, just try. Give it another try.
Give it a try.
This time.
Actually, I do not know actually
Give
how
it
to
your
pronounce
best.
it, but I am glad she has mentioned that truth, which I also acknowledge, that I really, really desecrate this language. I usually apologize, and I say, look, I'm going to pronounce as best as I can, and I'll probably get it wrong. Yes, but yes, thank you for mentioning. It is true. I did not pronounce it well.
There are only two words. How would you pronounce them? Just listening to those words.
No, let me not discredit his pronunciation.
No. He's.
I've discredited.
I love the translation.
He gets his credit.
Yes, I've already discredited
It's somewhere. It gets the silver. We're looking for the gold.
No, he's good.
Okay. Very diplomatic.
Yes.
You're here this morning, ladies, because we are looking back into what happened on Monday. Monday was International Day of the Girl Child, and this is celebrated every 11th of October. Is it every 11th or the second Monday, or what?
11th of October.
Okay. Every 11th of October, every year, globally, as the International Day of the Girl Child. And this year, of course, in Kenya, it coincided with a public holiday. So that public holiday in our country, we were all busy with all others, but people still celebrated this. But let's first of all start by understanding what your organization does, and then you'll tell us why it was relevant for you to commemorate this particular day. Who are ActionAid?
Thank you so much. ActionAid has been in Kenya since 1972, working with the communities at the grassroots, in marginalized and excluded areas. So if you drove in Nairobi, you may never see an Action Aid office, though we have a center office for coordination. But if you went deep down the parts of this country, if you were in Kajiado and you decided to do 40 kilometers, you'll get to a place called Elanga Tawas. If you went to Taita Taveta and you decided to drive right inside, you'll get to a place called Kishushe. Currently, we are in around 16 counties, and our main focus is to work with communities, and more so women and girls, to change their lives, to improve their conditions, to help them overcome barriers that would otherwise lead them into deplorable lives, and more so also looking at cultural issues, patriarchal tendencies that would always keep women, put them down, not being able to actualize who they truly are, their full potential. Yes.
So it's a woman rights and empowerment organization.
Part of it, but that is what we unapologetically do.
Okay.
Yes.
So what are some of the programs that you've been doing lately? You've been running around the country.
Yes, so not necessarily running around the country, but we are situated and located in the rural areas. We have one of our major programs called Education for Life. Many times people have focused on girls who are in school, and there's also a realization that we have out-of-school girls who never stepped into school, or they went to school, dropped out, and there were no efforts to take them back. So we're working with around 5,112 girls to see that, yes, you missed going back to school, but there are alternatives. We work with you through what we call catch-up centers and get them back to school if they choose that as a pathway. If you are above 18, then you have a second pathway to choose, which is to take other options, either livelihood, build your livelihoods. We have another program called Not Any Girl, where we equally look out for young mothers who either they never made it to school or also dropped out of school. We know what education does to a girl and a community at large. And so if a mother missed receiving the right education, there's the likelihood that she may not prioritize or fight for the children to equally receive the same education. And so we work with the women also to appreciate education and to change the narrative that if I never went to school, it doesn't mean my children should not go to school. I should embrace the change. And then there are other programs that focus access to justice, focuses on women's rights and being able to access justice and go through the justice system, especially when you encounter gender-based violence, when you are under threat, but also mainly bringing in preventive mechanisms. How do we work with you so that you're able to secure your environment and the environment of other women? Yeah, and much more, maybe Lina could speak on them. We have livelihood programs. What we believe that if you're fighting poverty, then there's the aspect of economic empowerment that has to come in. And so we have women economic empowerment programs where we work with them to identify alternatives and options that they can also rebuild or build their economic base. Because we know if you look at women leadership, which is also one of the programs that we have, when you look at leadership, it's very difficult to get to leadership without resources. And we are saying we want women to be also at the levels of leadership and also to take up both political, social leadership. But without resources, you find it's very difficult even to be at the decision-making table. So how do we move and work with this lady to acquire resources and move to the level of probably a village elder, and the next thing become an MCA and make more become an MP. Yeah, and we have the outcome to report. We've worked with very many women who are now MCAs. If you go to Bamburi, you go to a place called Mwakirunge, there's a lady called Fedis who started working with ActionAid under a group that we call Sauti ya Wanawake. And with time, Fedis realized that she can lead. But when she went to check, she found, I don't have my Form 4 certificate. And at that age, almost 40, she said she will get her Form 4 certificate. And the next thing was, after the Form 4 certificate, she presented her papers. She was popular, but didn't have the right resources and didn't have the papers. Yeah. So those are what we do as ActionAid.
So, okay. So, Lena, what are some of the other areas that we're looking at when we're looking at then programs that are set up, looking at education, for example, gender-based violence that Susan has talked about just now. We know, for example, today the police are launching this new polycare service whereby, victims of gender-based violence will be taken care of and going through a system properly. So when we look at something like that, that means clearly the cases of GBV are so high that, other actors need to be involved. So what are some of the glaring issues that we still see today that the girl child, young women are having to suffer that then needs project implementation?
Thank you so much for having us this morning. For me, when we're talking about access to justice, as Susan has spoken, Polycare is a very good initiative that we applaud and we are really for. The gaps and the glaring gaps that we are seeing, especially in the communities where we work, then comes to the issues of sometimes, do I know that being beaten, we're talking about the International Day of a Girl. Most of the girls understand that being beaten, doing a lot of work, undergoing all these things is normal. They are normal day to day. So for me, the biggest gap is then how do we build the consciousness of the girls to understand that this is not kawaida, this is a violation, and that I am able to report, and this is my right as a girl. So for us as ActionAid is to ensure that we are empowering the girls, first of all, to understand that they do have rights as girls. We have children's rights, and that they are able to report when a case or an issue that is a violation occurs to them. So we are doing a lot of awareness for the girls to understand themselves, to understand that being touched indecently is a violation and I am able to report this and I have avenues to report. Because if we have polycare and people are not coming up to report an issue, then they are not going to be effective. So first of all is to enable these girls to understand themselves. And we do this by having sessions with girls in school, with the schools that are there, and we have girl forums. We call them girl forums or girl clubs, and where the girls now have a safe space to talk about issues that are affecting them and to also understand where do I go when something like this happens to me. And even the ones who are out of school, we have also sessions with them to also understand violations, to understand their rights, to understand how to access justice and where and how to follow it up so that they are living lives that are full. So that is for me a big gap, enabling the girls to have that courage to come out, speak out, and, access the justice through the avenues that the government has introduced.
Laudable. Given that a lot of the injustice that we speak of is meted on the girl child by males. So if we were to talk about the source of the problem, yes, there is the part where someone isn't fully aware or doesn't have adequate knowledge to deal with the problem. But then there is the other contributor to the problem who is, in essence, a source of the problem. Has ActionAid ever considered having a similar program for young men, boys? Because if you educate the girl child, but the perpetrator of some of these problems is not equally educated in understanding how to treat this person whom they violate and mistreat, then you've only done part of the work. And you will not actually achieve the results that you actually desire. My thoughts.
Yeah, thank you so much. I tell people, most of the times when I talk to people, I say there's attitude, there's capacity. I would put not knowing what to do as capacity, then it should be addressed. But I'll also look at attitude. How were you raised to appreciate women? And so if you're talking about the male as the perpetrator, and we are talking about enabling them, they are
a contributing perpetrator.
A perpetrator,
Yes.
a perpetrator, at the end of the day, if you've committed it and it's proven that you're guilty, you're guilty. And we've always found it that way. The most unfortunate thing is that the statistics that we talk about is always about the girl. 10 girls were raped, 10 girls were pregnant. I think we need to change the narrative and start talking of 4 men raped 4 girls or 4 men. Let's change the narrative. But we have programs in places like Tangul Bay, in Baringo, Kongela in West Pokot. We target the Moran. And we also work with the men. They have the elders club called Kokuo, which is just headed by men. I don't know if I pronounced it well. But those are the elders who will decree, who will make laws, okay? And so we target them and we work with them. Because when they speak with the men as they go through the rites of passage, one of the trainings include the aspect of sex, and I'll speak about it openly. And what they're trained to do is to the sex debut encounters and all that. But who talks to them? Their mothers, their sisters are never near them. The people who are close to them are the elders, their uncles, their brothers, and their fathers. So we have men whom we work with. We have male champions who we also speak with to be able to interact with the rest. Where we find an opportunity that we may be venturing in also is that, yes, you are a perpetrator. You've gone in, served your term, and you've come out. You're equally someone we could target and work with so that you can actually tell people if there's something you learned by being jailed or you did not. But we do work with the men. And it goes back to how, for me as a woman, if I am trained and I know that violence is a violation of my rights, then I should be able to tell my son. And for you as a father or as a son, you saw your mother go through it, but you could not condemn because you are a man or you are a child. You've grown up, you hear your sisters going back home because of violence. You experience seeing your auntie going back home, coming back home, and then you ask your dad, why is auntie so-and-so at home? She was beaten or this and this happened. For you as a man also, it's more of your conscience. Why would you restrain yourself when you are about to fight with a fellow man, but not restrain yourself when you're fighting with a woman? Because it's illegal.
When you have these conversations with the elders, the Morans, for example, in the communities that you're working, what do they tell you? What's their feedback? Do they seek to make you understand why what is happening in their community is happening?
The Moran will tell you, and even the elders, they'll say, but tusipo mchapa, can I speak Swahili? Tusipo mpiga mama, anaona hatumpendi. That's a narrative. If you don't beat a woman, then she feels you don't love her. That's a narrative that has been
confirmed
created.
by the women?
It is they speak about it because it's what they've been told. It's how love has been defined. But is love violence? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
Love should keep you away from violence.
So in such a case, when you find a community looks and treats and understands love to be that, how then do you change their perception of love? Both the men and the women. Because the women are brought up by their mothers, and this is how they understand love to be. This is what they understand love to be. This is what they demand then of their partners. The boys are brought up by their fathers, and their mothers and their fathers, especially when they are a younger age. And this is what they are taught love is all about. How do you start changing that perception?
Yeah, my colleague spoke about awareness. And so it's about speaking the truth and helping them understand, rewriting the narrative. What is true love? Okay? We've had even girls being raped on dates. And we've been working with communities, but now even professional women, we know it. They go through violence. But just to come out and speak about it, then someone will say, I'll lose him, I'll lose my support, But for the communities, when you target the women and train them, because they are the ones who get that earlier encounter, and a lot of time, they spend a lot of time with the children, it's about changing the narrative. Yeah.
Maybe I could add.
Yeah.
I think for us, what we do, and one of our approaches as Action Aid actually is we do conflict-sensitive programming, which then means that when we go to a community, we do not go there up in arms at the first instance. We reach there and we try to understand from their point of view, how has this been working? Why is this working? Then from there, we are able to design programs that are behavior and attitude. The way Susan is talking about, we need to target the attitude and the behaviors of these people. And it's a programming that takes a while because you're changing people's perceptions, and it does not happen once. So we have to, first of all, understand from their point of view, then look at solutions that are homegrown by them, to be able to now get out of it, change the narrative the way Susan is saying. So we do a lot of sensitization, and it can be women-led, women-focused, men-focused, girl-focused, so that we are doing it per the grouping, so that people are able to understand in their own groupings and also have and now come together as the community and address the issue. But we have to first understand where they're coming from, so that you're also sensitive when you're working with them and changing their perception. But it does take a while for it to change.
Sure. I mean, I'm also looking at the parents of boys, of young boys, are not just fathers.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we see the perpetuation of these attitudes in these narratives in boys by mothers. That mothers are continually protecting a boy or not coming against a particular way of doing things because they're scared or it's the norm or whatever. So we find that these young boys are growing up into men with a culture that has been perpetuated by the mother, which we cannot run away from as a reality. So is there work that is being also done to say, look, one of the greatest influences on a young boy's life is the attitudes that are put forth by his mother as well. Is that being dealt with?
Yeah, respond to that after this break. Let's take a break, quick one. 28 minutes after 8, this is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room on SpiceFM, KTN Home and online. We are having a conversation about empowering the girl child so that we can empower the nation. How do we empower the girl child? Susan Otieno is the Executive Director of Action Aid International Kenya, and she's joined in the room by Lina Mora, Local Rights Programs Coordinator in the same organization, Action Aid International Kenya. We are looking back into the day of the International Day of the Girl Child, which was commemorated on Monday, the 11th of October. Good morning. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
In the quest of saving an ailing son, Sonia does the unthinkable. Will the guilt of her misdeeds haunt her, or will she come clean? Catch Mother's Guilt at 6 p.m. every Monday to Friday, only on KTN Home.
Arnold, we're in a society where men have become very lazy. They have made people's daughters become mamafuas. You know mamafua? Yes. That you come to a man's house, maybe you went out or you've come for a weekend, you find all his shirts in his laundry basket. Yeah. He was waiting for you to
come and
are you his wife? Including his inner garments.
Right, yeah.
Ladies, stop doing that.
Let me
Those are wifely duties, and even some wives don't
That's
do them.
literally what I was about to say. I was wondering, there's even some wives who refuse to do that.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between work, love, and play. The Adults in the Room is the only show on radio dedicated to educating Kenyans on how they can stay winning in life and in love. Text the word adult to 22840 to get the latest clips from Adults in the Room directly to your mobile phone. SMS adults to 22840.
Spice and everything nice. All right. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
All right, still mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 14 degrees. That'll be the low for today, going to highs of 24. And it's mostly cloudy in Nakuru at 17, highs of 25 and lows of 14. Nyeri cloudy at 15, highs of 24. We're looking at sunny conditions actually in Eldoret at 18, highs of 23. and lows of 14. Mombasa is mostly clear at 24. That'll be the low for today, going to highs of 30. And we're looking at mostly cloudy conditions at 26 in Malindi. 25 will be the low, going to highs of 30. Kisumu, 18 degrees and partly sunny, highs of 28 and lows of 18, while in Kakamega, it's sunny as well at 19, 15 will be the low and highs of 28. Kampala is partly sunny at 19, highs of 28, and we're looking at clear conditions in Dar es Salaam at 24, highs of 30 and lows of 23. It's sunny and warming up in Johannesburg at 21, highs of 28 and lows of 15, while Lagos is mostly clear at 25, it'll go to highs of 32. Partly sunny conditions in Kinshasa, good morning, highs of 33, lows of 23.
Spice up your life.
Where are you? Mombasa Road this morning, in and outbound, going towards the Maritime inbound, and on Airport, North Airport Road leading out of Mombasa Road. That's quite sticky this morning. Southern Bypass not looking too bad. Use that as an option, but you're going to get to Langata Road and things are going to slow down considerably. We're looking at the industrial area circuit of Lunga Lunga coming off of Likoni and then joining towards the interchange on Mombasa Road, also continuing with that drama this morning. Uhuru Highway, Aerodrome Road, feeding off of Langata Road this morning as well, quite packed. The Thika Superhighway, it's like it's magic. It gets better, gets worse, gets better. I think we're now on the getting worse stage, around about 8:30. Also coming off Kiambu Road, in and outbound. My goodness, it's still a thing this morning, so we're going to keep an eye on that one. Don't go to Kiambu Road, just don't, not for now. If you're coming off of it, then we're going to apply some patience to it right now, aren't we? Talk to us, guys. Help us out, just in case you get stuck somewhere, or if you are stuck somewhere. CT can sing you a song. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text on 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. SpiceFM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
It is the 27
94.4 Spice FM.
Nairobi Situation Room. This on every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. In the room is CT Muga Ndu Okoh, Eric Latiff, and we're joined by Susan Otieno and Lina Murav from ActionAid International Kenya. How to empower the girl child. As we took the break, Ndu asked the question, how do you deal with the mother of the boy to make sure that they inculcate the right values in the boy as they're bringing them up?
Yeah, thank you so much, Eric. What I believe in is you can only pass what you have and what you believe in. And as Lina has said, we engage with the women not as a one touch. We take time. If we go to an area to implement our programs, we take like 10 years before we leave. And in those 10 years, as we learn, we also get to engage, to know what are the narratives that these women have grown with. Culture is patriarchal. And in many cases, there'll be that opportunity of trying to defend the boy. He shouldn't be in the kitchen. He shouldn't cook. Girls should do this for him. But you ask yourself if that narrative still suffices. And so engaging with the mothers and with the women is usually the immediate action for us, that we get to change the beliefs that they were having, but replace them with the right ones. Okay, and when we do this, it's ideally not even actually doing it. What we do, we are more facilitators. We would facilitate the space for them to talk about these difficult debates that they hardly have. We would facilitate the space for them to start thinking of what is the right thing for me to do. And that way, it's easier because it gets engraved than for me to land there with a whole paper and tell you, belief number one, out. Number two, take it in. So we really invest time and even funds. We've also tried to bring in the aspect of exposure. If you were believing in one thing from a Luhya community, then you may want to visit another community and find that thing is totally outrageous. I mean, they even get shocked when they hear it. And then also learn and pick up what could be positive. Not all culture is retrogressive. But what is retrogressive, we have to talk about it. Yeah.
Lina, there's some case studies from all the work that you've done, especially that when you say you go to a community, you first seek to understand this community, and then together you develop a program that would bring in the behavioral change. Some case studies of where you've gone, you've found this is something that really needs to change immediately, and the community took you in and accepted the change.
I think I could talk about our FGM work. We know that girls in Kenya and many of our communities are undergoing female genital mutilation. So us coming into a community, we have worked, for instance, let me talk about the Maasai community in Kajiado. We go in, we find that this is what they're doing as a rite of passage. Then we seek to understand, why do you do this? Then we also come in with our rebuttal, in quotes, and enable the community to understand the why we are saying it is not a good culture. And then we are able to come up with an alternative from the community itself. And they're saying, look, we are trying to, it's a culture, it's a rite of passage. But what we do, we are talking to the girls so that they understand the area they're moving into as women. They're required to do this, to behave like this, and that is what we do. And the cutting is just like a sign. So, but they say, let's take on the good part of it, which is the trainings, the talking to the women and the girls. But let's now, from our point of view, we say, can we think about now thinking of something else, an alternative, so that we are still talking about girls and how they're going to go to the community as women, respectful women, but still not doing the bad thing, the cutting. So we have given them, we have listened to them, why they do it, and we realize it is a good reason. They are training them, they're teaching them good things, behaviors and all that. But there's only one part that is bad, the cutting. So can we do what you are doing, which is shaping the girls into positive human beings in the society, but cut out the violation part of it. And we move on. So the communities, we sort of do like a take and give situation, and they're able to take on the alternative rite of passage. We still go through the trainings, but we are not doing the cutting. So that can be one case study, that we came in, understood why you are doing it, took the positive side of it, but also taught you that by cutting the girls, you are mutilating them and you're violating them, and it has no medical benefit to them. And they're able to embrace it. So they are merging their culture with what we believe and what the world and the community and the government has believed as the right thing to do.
Right. What would you say the success markers are when we look at these projects that have been implemented? And I ask this because I think sometimes when we look at programmings of social nature, we run the risk of including them because, it sounds like the right thing to do, right? Politically, socially correct. We run programs where we are empowering the youth and supporting the women and the girl child, It almost sounds like it's prescribed from the beginning. Until and unless we see that, the many areas in Kenya that you've spoken about, Susan, or the issues that you see, Lina, until we see or until you can tell us what are some clear successes that would then encourage the continuance of such programs, then it becomes, kind of like, okay, it's done because, in this day and age, it sounds good to have it on the portfolio.
You're right. Now, if I pick up from the example, the FGM and the war against FGM, you find that once a girl is cut, she's earmarked for marriage. It doesn't matter the age. We know girls have been married at 9 years to an old man who is 60, and he just sits with the girl as a daughter until she turns maybe 14, and that's the next minute. Now this is a wife. He can sleep with the girl. The effects of FGM are also there. Then it goes to childbirth, and it's a painful marriage and life for the girl. And when we work with the communities and a family comes up and says, I'm not cutting my girl, the next thing is the next option. If she's not cut, then she won't be earmarked for marriage. Then it means the girl has to stay in school. We've seen girls stay in school. We've seen retention, that's retention. We've seen transition, and we've also seen increased performance, because as they stay in school, they start appreciating the positive aspects of education. We were in Kongelai in December.
Where is Kongelai?
Kongelai is in West Pokot. Yeah. We were in Kongelai, and it's unfortunate. It was we were closing the program, and in that one meeting, we had 3 girls who had gone through the program. One was working in the county office, one was an assistant chief, and one was, I think, also at the 2 were in the county office. And they said it's the interactions that they had with ActionAid when ActionAid went there 13 years ago that made them who they were. Of course, one spoke openly and said, yes, I was cut, but my parents understood the importance of a girl going to school. And I went to school and I finished, and I'm here today to encourage the girls. In Kongelai, we've built a center, a rescue center, because changing culture is not easy. And so some of the girls, when they know there's the threat of going through FGM, they would run away from home. And within the rescue center, there's also the women organization, which we've also empowered in a way, and they are able to take in the girls. So you find that the girls will continue with their education. For me, that is success. Those who were unfortunate and dropped out but still ran to the center, they receive trainings on how dressmaking, various kinds of skills that they can improve their lives. Because you find that at that point, she was probably married, and they'll tell you to a 65-year-old man who paid goats and they cannot be returned. So what could she do was to run away. So the fact that there's a center that is functional, for me, it's a success. But because ActionAid cannot do everything, we take these successes and now engage with the government. You find we have the legislative provisions on female genital mutilation, the Anti-FGM Act. We know that it is illegal. We also know that the president has come out and declared by 2022 this vice should be done with. And it's interesting that, people were even trying to shortchange him by saying, no, not 2022. Let's say we will end FGM in our generation. Yeah. And he came back and said, no, 2022. Why are we holding on what is retrogressive, for God's sake? I've been to Isiolo, and I stood and spoke with the community. And I told them, in my community, they don't cut. That's why I'm here. If I was cut, I don't think I would be here. But aren't you admiring me that I'm standing here as a leader? Wouldn't you want to see your daughter as a leader? So this kind of examples, and also the change. And what is important is that the violence is reducing, especially the areas where we work in. Someone goes back and says, no, but the numbers of cases reported, but it's because they know their rights and they know where to go. That's why they're reporting. So the education bit for me is very, very critical. The fact that girls are going to report is a social change. The fact that women are coming out to say, no, my daughter has been earmarked for FGM, please rescue her. For me, that is change. Because then why have what you had mentioned, like polycare, if no one will come out? I had a meeting last week with the Chief Justice, her ladyship, Martha Koome, and she shared a lot because she's been in this struggle, the rights journey. Yeah. And one of the things that she said that in the informal settlement, what they're doing, I think around 5, they're trying to put up courts, and there will be like a 2-door. One of the doors would just be an SGBV court, so that you are not scared that you will go and speak to a judge or meet police out there or meet people or the court staff who have no clue, And the reason why many people don't go out is you walk into a police station and say, mama, mtu anakupenda. You're telling me ananipenda and I've lost an eye. So atanipenda mwili yote iende. So these are some of the successes for us, that when we see the government also coming up, when we hear our President Uhuru declaring and saying, by 2022, FGM should be done with. For me, it is, they are the successes that when we sit, we actually say, yes, our work.
So
is
several
bearing
markers.
fruits.
There is the national conversation, there is the enactment of legislation, there is the prosecution, successful prosecution and punishment of perpetrators.
Yeah.
There's increased awareness, and that's why you're saying that we have now more cases being reported.
Yes.
It indicates increased awareness. So many years down the road, and more than 5-10 organizations dealing with the same issue. ActionAid is just one of many organizations in the country that are specifically dealing with the issue of FGM. What do you think? What would you say are the reasons why we still have FGM taking place today? It goes undercover. It was in the news the other day of some girls who had crossed over into a neighboring country to go and undergo FGM, and then they come back. Why is it still being practiced despite all these efforts that are being made, despite all this commitment at the highest level of government?
Yeah, thank you. What has been happening and is still happening is that the fight against FGM has been moved to the cultural side of it. The cultural leaders, the community. But if we have legislation, we need to move it to the right place. If we have legislation, we should be asking ourselves, you are a chief or an assistant chief. You heard about it. It's happening in your area. What was done? And if nothing was done, I think this legislation is for such people. You have the power. You can issue a decree. We have moved it to NGOs, as you're saying, many organizations. Can you tell me the amount of domestic financing that has been set aside to fight FGM? Can you tell me the amount of political leaders that will come out today and say, this is my manifesto, even as I look for a party, and fight against FGM is number one?
Susan, in the communities you work in, maybe to both of you, what have you found to be the significance of what we refer to as FGM? Why do communities insist on continuing the tradition? What position does it have? What significance does it hold for them?
Thank you for that. As we said, it's always good to look at the root cause and why these things happened. And if you look keenly and you talk, we have participatory methodologies that we employ when we go to those communities to try and understand. And storytelling is one of them. So we've spoken to cultural leaders and we sought to understand why was it done those days? And most of them would say, like the Maasai and the pastoralist community, that when our men go out, those days when we would take the cattle to go and graze, maybe there's drought now, wamehama boma, wamepeleka ng'ombe, they would come back and find maybe the woman has given birth and they've gone for so many months or is pregnant. And they're like, I was not part of this deal. How did this happen? And so it was a way to curb the sex urge for women.
So they thought.
That was the big thought. And when you look at it deeply for us as ActionAid, it's all about power. How am I letting my power ipotee hivyo? Naezaje kukuwa swindled of my power? And that is why it was perpetuated, so that we can subdue the women, take away their power, their thought, thinking that now that they are not, because now we are told we cut the clitoris so that you don't have the sexual urge. But why was it? Why are we removing the sexual urge? Because when we go away, we come and find you have chafuad maneno is in the house, so
But
to
then
say. So it is all about power.
There's the evolution of to the rite of passage.
Yes.
It starts there. Now, over time, it's a rite of passage. So you cannot get married. So
if you do not.
Yes, so it becomes a very significant part of a young girl's life because it indicates your passage from being a girl to a woman, something they all look forward to.
Yes, and they look forward to that because the alternatives that are there for them, like going to school, finishing school, getting a good job, getting skills, being that engineer, invent, discover, was not brought to them. And this is what was brought to them, that a woman can only be a wife.
Right. But you see, Susan?
Yes.
This is the point that I'm getting to. I'm trying to suggest, you see, marriage was an important and is an important part of that rite of passage. people look forward to getting married.
Yep.
And everything else that we talk about, that further education, it moves marriage further and further and further away.
The better.
Now, that is the point that I am saying. You can actually preach this gospel and include all the values that these people consider important and embed it in what you're suggesting and what you're propagating.
Yes.
But, yes, but when you focus on education, eliminating FGM, you are also eliminating the hope and significance that many of these women consider to be part and parcel of their community.
But Susan, can it not then be seen as that marriage was the only aspiration that was accorded to these communities? That because it was just marriage, these other options of education and skills and innovation, etc., was never presented. Marriage was the ultimate, and that was it. And so that's where they're saying, if I'm saying it right, that the gaps are that. So the rite of passage onto what? Passage onto marriage. That was it. There was no passage onto becoming someone in society. There was no passage onto becoming educated. There was no passage onto starting your own business, being entrepreneurial, nothing like that. So these options I'm hearing, stop me if I'm wrong, is what now is being introduced today.
And I feel, and that's why I was asking that question, I feel that it's not holistic. I also feel that by saying let's focus on the law because the law is there and it's punitive, we will be missing the point, in my opinion. All those other alternatives that you're talking about, in these communities that we are talking about, these are the communities that are marginalized. These are communities where schools are not easily available and accessible.
They're not around the corner.
They're not a school around the corner. We are not seeing a development of new schools. We are not seeing development of new TTIs that you can say, so this girl did not go undergo FGM, did not get married, but here is a school that is just close by. And after going to school, here is how she's been able to utilize her skill to earn a living. You've gone to a TTI and then you still come back and the life is still the same. There's nothing there, no opportunities available. If we don't focus on all those alternatives and actually providing the alternatives and saying, now let's start arresting the chief because the chief allowed this to happen, it'll go underground. And the chief will tell you, I learnt about it after they'd come back.
I totally agree with you that the programming has to be holistic. And the holistic bit, when you look at our pillars, actually, we talk about empowerment as one as the biggest pillar. So we have to give these people the information, the communities. We have to bring out all the narratives that were there, look at the options that are there, what better way can we move our girls, and then look at then we are talking about opportunities, we're talking about attitudes in the community. What is the girl, what do we know the girl is supposed to be doing, or the woman, according to our cultures? And you'll find that most of them are not for bringing the girl out. We do not give those narratives of education, bettering your life, economic well-being, and all that. So then we do that information, the empowerment. But we also do a lot of now, we call it solidarity, linkages with other institutions and other opportunities that are there for the girls, and enabling them to explore opportunities that are there and to better themselves. That's why we're talking about catch-up centers. You were not able to finish your education, but now we are catching you up to where you should be in terms of education. We talk about a lot issues of unpaid care work, the work that women and girls do at home. But we are looking at it from the point of then how do we free most of your time, redistribute the work at home so that everyone is doing their bit, so that you're able now to pursue education, you're able to gain productive employment, and you're able to bring yourself up economically. And then we are saying, okay, wait, stop. ActionAid cannot do all this by ourselves. Then how do we now engage the government in terms of our work on campaign work and advocacy work? Then we go back to the government. What opportunities are there in terms of financing, in terms of institutions for learning, in terms of women economic empowerment, and all that. So it is a whole web of, we build the capacity of the girl and the woman. We link them up with opportunities that are there. We look at the policies that are there. What are the loopholes? What are the gaps? And how best can we work with the community to campaign for better services and better environment for them to bring themselves out?
Honestly, I
of
feel
the
that
issues.
that other side that you've just said, that's where the gap is. When you go to the government and you ask, so what are these opportunities? What are you doing? What would you be able to do to expand opportunities
Yeah.
for these young girls and boys?
Yes.
So that if they do not do what they've been doing traditionally, this is the alternative that they can do. If they don't have it, if you're only going to take them to a safe center and you teach them beading and then they come out and then make beads, but then who are they selling the beads to? Same cycle.
Yeah.
Nobody in the community is going to say, yeah, so I did not take my girl, this is what she's doing.
Could I?
Let's just say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home and then you'll do the kudai. It's 4 minutes to 9. Thank you very much for tuning into the conversation on KTN Home. This conversation continues on Spice FM around the country, Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret. And also we are live streaming the show on Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and our website www.spicefm.co.ke.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice
I
FM.
just wanted to respond to what Muga had asked, that FGM is not only embedded on the woman and looking at it, the girl looking at it as a rite of passage. There's also the economic connotation to it. From what the community share is that I can restock if I marry my girl away. Yeah, so it's also seen from an economic perspective. And that then needs another intervention. It's equally seen from a social perspective, that my age mates, my clansmates, if I don't host them in my home, then I'm not respected. Those are some of the reasons that drive them. Even when you talk to parents and tell them, please don't do this, they'll tell you, but if I don't host them, they'll look down on me, you know.
Yep.
So some of these elements, they come out when you get to speak with the community. But I just want to say that even when we talk of FGM as a preparation to marriage, for me, marrying a girl under 18 who's gone through FGM, we should not even be talking about marriage. Let's just call it rape. That FGM allows you to rape a girl under the cultural connotation. Because there's nothing as child marriage. Child marriage is child rape. That girl is not enjoying the marriage, and she may never enjoy even beyond the age of 18. But the opportunities that we've denied her are far too many for us to sit back and just watch them. But the government is equally the place to go. They are the duty bearers.
Yeah.
We pay our taxes. They collect the funds, and therefore adequate allocation should be done to areas that can relieve the guns.
Susan, if you look at the background of where you come from, I'm just pinning what I want to say on the economic aspects of it. It's been understood that education helps achieve that very thing in far greater measure than the cows that you're given.
Took a while though to get there.
That's the point.
It was power of
It's
example.
the evolutionary process, and that is why the catalytic nature of what Action Aid is doing is commendable. Because they are helping the evolutionary
narrative.
process of culture.
Yes.
And that, in my mind, is a tremendous thing.
Thank you.
Indeed. And thank you very much, ladies, for joining us this morning.
Thank you too.
Susan Otieno is the Executive Director of Action Aid International Kenya. Lina Mora is the Local Rights Programs Coordinator, the same organization. You ladies are doing a good job. Say hello to everybody else at Action Aid. We'll come and visit you in some of your programs.
Please
It should
do.
be interesting
Thank
to
you.
see some of these things in action.
Indeed.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Keep it right here for more coming up in the next hour. We are live on Spice FM and also live streaming the show online. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newsround Dennis Asseto. President Uhuru Kenyatta has criticized the decision by the International Court of Justice on the maritime border dispute between Kenya and Somalia, firmly stating that Kenya rejects it in totality and would not recognize the court's findings. The head of state added that the decision by the World Court would strain relations between Kenya and Somalia. Kenyatta accused the court of failing to permit the use, let alone the exhaustion, of regional dispute resolution mechanisms, despite the existence of a robust African Union legal framework on border issues and dispute settlement. He said Kenya will pursue the matter through the institutions of the African Union, such as the African Union Border Program and its peace and security architecture, in addition to other bilateral arrangements. President Kenyatta maintains that he will stand by his oath of office to protect the country's territorial integrity. An estimated 2.1 million Kenyans continue to suffer from hunger, a situation that has been fueled by prolonged drought. The areas most affected are the northeastern counties, where academic activities have been affected. When schools reopened for the second time yesterday, a large number of students have failed to return to school due to the famine and livestock continue to die. Dalam Ahmed is an administrator in Garissa County.
People have lost completely all their livestock. Imagine of a situation now, schools are opening. There are those parents who opted to shift with their little livestock that is left in mid of pasture and find in search of pasture and water wherever they are, and definitely they will have to go away with their children. So we expect a very low turnout of students and people when we open the schools.
As political temperature continues to rise ahead of the 2022 general elections, NCIC has warned politicians who spread hate speech that action will be taken against them. NCIC Commissioner Dorcas Kedogo said the commission is monitoring all meetings to prevent violence.
Kama NCIC tunataka elections bila noma 2022. Yani kila mmoja auza sera zake na mmusikize, na akimaliza nyinyi wenyewe 2022 mnajua ni nani mtapigia kura. Kwa hivyo hatutaki vurugu katika mikutano yoyote. Ikiwa una mtu wako, wewe mwenyewe unamjua ni wako, mambo ya makelele ya kufanya vurugu, sisi hatungependa.
Kedego also advised Kenyans to promote peace, unity and harmony.
Kuna watoto hapa, kuna vijana, kuna wamama. Hatutaki waweze kuumia kwa sababu ya mambo ya siasa. Siasa itakuja na itaenda. Lakini ikiwa mtapigana, nyinyi wenyewe mtaumia pale. Hatutaki vurugu yoyote. Msikize kila mmoja, sikiza kila chama chochote, na wewe mwenyewe you'll make that decision come 2022.
Kenyans can now breathe easy after the IEBC said they don't have to travel to change their polling stations or register to become voters. Chairman Wafula Chebukati told the Parliamentary Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs that the operation could be carried out at the 52 Huduma centers across the country and not at voter registration centers. During the session, the issue of voters changing their polling stations also dominated the meeting, where IEBC commissioners accompanying Chebukati said they were investigating the reality of the allegations that had been raised by some politicians.
Transfers will be there after the 30-day ECBR exercise is over. Transfers as we speak can happen at any Huduma within the county. It may not be useful to you, especially if the ward is very far from the Huduma center. We understand. But what we can do is just to create mobility for the constituency-based transfer ECVR to be mobile rather than stationary.
Preparations for Mashujaa Day celebrations to be held in Kirinyaga County are almost complete. Interior PS Karanja Kibisho say they have already visited Wanguru Stadium and that 95% of the preparations have been achieved. For now, the stadium is expected to be handed over to the government officials who will continue working on the venue. In addition, Kibisho has indicated that Mwea Town, which will be hosting the celebrations, will be cleaned up and posters inviting President Uhuru Kenyatta to be hung from today. In addition, the invitation cards have been sent out to all prospective guests. Only 2,000 Kenyans will attend the Mashujaa Day celebrations on the very day. A KDF officer continues to receive treatment after running over an IED believed to have been planted by Al-Shabaab terrorists between Milimani and Baure in Lamu County. In a press statement, KDF spokeswoman Colonel Esther Wanjiku said the attack took place in the Baure area of the Boni Forest, where Kenyan troops have been conducting operations against Al-Shabaab since 2015. The officer was airlifted to Nairobi for further treatment while a major operation is being carried out against the terrorists. This is Newswire. Dennis Asseto.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, still continues on Mombasa Road this morning, and we're seeing North Airport Road still jam-packed. Quite a lot of traffic on this road today. That whole circular area of industrial area as well, traffic feeding in and out of the city this morning. Aerodrome Road jam-packed, spilling over into places where there should not be traffic. But everybody trying to then join Uhuru Highway, where the traffic party is happening today. And it's not one that you want to stick around for. Okay, so that continues. We're also looking at traffic on the thicker superhighway, quite hot and heavy. Kiambu Road is not letting up, folks. What is going on? Everybody's trying to get where they're going this morning. Hopefully we can be careful while doing so. And if you run into anything that is untoward, let us know on SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the
7 minutes
Situation
after
Room,
9.
the
Very
only
good
way to
morning
start
you.
your
If you're
day.
just joining us, you've missed. But it's okay. You'll still enjoy the rest of the show. 1 hour remaining. Kenya's biggest conversation always begins the hour with the day's proverb. CT?
Yes, the patient animal fattens.
Eyehoya yanula.
Yes. Eyehoya yanula.
The patient animal
fattens.
It's a good one. It's a good one. So we were looking at the papers earlier this morning. And as usual, we skip the front pages because it's always, politics this, politics the other. Do not follow me blindly, Ruto tells allies. Raila confident of free and fair 2022 elections. Big win for principals as Kadu Asili joins coalition. MPs in a new bid to clip Ruto's wings, push creation of 73 constituencies. Blah, blah, blah. Politicians pick catchy nicknames to woo voters. And then we get to the Mwananchi stories. A month on, famine still ravaging the region. 1 month since President Uhuru Kenyatta declared the ongoing drought affecting parts of the country a national disaster, the government is yet to mitigate the effects. Locals are resigned to fate that the situation has become dire, with many of them losing their only source of livelihoods. For example, Said Omar Aden Kasim says, every day I lose 2 to 3 animals due to this drought. So far, my family has lost about 50 livestock. We need urgent help. The National Drought Management Authority says we've been carrying out interventions such as water tracking and providing livestock feeds, but because of the huge demands, our involvement has not been felt. This is according to Garissa National Drought Management Coordinator Abdinur Dubo. The former governor of Garissa County says there has been no help from the government despite the drought being declared a national disaster. We've lost a significant number of livestock and we need to move fast to avert losing people's lives. This is just Garissa County and in fact just around the area of Liboi. How many counties are facing starvation which has been declared a national disaster? 12 counties. With so many people.
Yes.
Conversations at the national level moved on from that point of it being declared a national disaster a long time ago. Have we seen, for example, we are still seeing issues affecting the residents of Laikipia. Just the other day, I think 2 days ago, there was a fresh attack in Laikipia where several people were killed because people had come to bring their cattle to other people's farms. They were repulsed. They went, they sneaked back around and came and attacked the families that had told on them. And 3 people were killed. This is continuing. Children have gone back to school, and the issue of how much school fees they'll be able to raise, whether the schools are well equipped, whether the teachers are well remunerated, whether the teachers understand what CBC curriculum is all about, whether this is happening, it's an issue. The stories that we were reading 2 weeks ago about hospitals in various counties not having the supplies that they need, it's only that they are not in the headlines now, but the stories continue. There are very many parts of this country where you go to a public facility and you'll be told, so you've come, you've seen the doctor, here is a list, go and look for this medicine because we don't have it here. Or I need to conduct A, B, C, D tests, but our lab does not have the required material, so go to that pharmacy there which has a lab, get the tests done at that facility. Our leaders, the ones we see going to hospital, are going to private hospitals, getting treated. They have very good medical cover. Footed by taxpayers. When they need to be airlifted out of the country, they will be airlifted out of the country. When they need much of that coming from NHIF, they will get it from NHIF. When they need their children to go back to school, their children are going to school in private institutions. Even those that are doing their local curriculum are doing local curriculum, but in private institutions where the student-teacher ratio is not as bad as in public schools. So the question then is, are our leaders really in touch with what the majority of Kenyans go through on a daily basis? And how do we bring them in touch with what the majority of Kenyans are going through on a daily basis? Is it about time, now that we do legislation all the time, is it about time we do legislation and say, if you are enjoying a public salary, you shall access only public services? You will take your children to public school. You will go to public hospitals. This medical cover that we are giving you is only accessible in public hospitals.
I think that the way we should put it is it should be very clear. People who have the responsibility to provide this public service for the general population should also use it. Because it'll either force you to do it right, or force you to then enjoy the sufferings of everybody else. You can't say that we're going to provide this, or that we're going to legislate and this is the minimum that we're able to give, and then you don't partake of it as well. Since that is the table that you have set before us, let us all eat at the same table. And I think it must be fair. If you want something better, legislate for something better. If you want something better, insist that the services provided must be better. If they can't be better, let us all swim in these waters together. If this is the best that you can do with what you've been given, with the resources allocated, with the opportunity and the platform then having been created, this is the best that you can do, let us all swim in it together. You should not have the purview of being able to take your children to better schools, that you should be able to acquire better health care because you are in a position where you earn more. No. And you are in a position where you're supposed to legislate for these things to come about in the first place. No. It is true. That is what you want to provide. You shall also use it. It'll do one of two things. It'll force you then to create the best with what has been provided, or you will then be resigned to having to swim in the murky and muddy waters with everybody else. To me, it's very clear. Very simple. That's what you can provide. You also use it. You want to cook bad food? You don't have the option of going outside to eat at a 5-star restaurant. No. We'll all eat it together with the weevils and the beans.
This journey that we've embarked on as a nation towards a national consensus on impunity has. And do you say this very often? And I sometimes think, well, it's taken time to sink in my mind. The consequences and the outcomes of this path that we have chosen has not fully dawned on us. But part of the reason why I think it hasn't is because what we haven't ever fully internalized is something very fundamental. That as Kenyan citizens, we are actually entitled to certain basic rights. We haven't internalized it. And so we put up with all the muck and the rack and the nonsense that is brought upon us. We put up with it. And in putting up with it, we encourage it. Now, we may not realize this, but that's what we do. If someone keeps presenting you with a situation that is harmful to you and you do not speak up against it, they assume that it is okay with you to be mistreated. When you speak up, and you speak up consistently, and it is clear it is something you will not put up with, then they will change. Case in point, look at the hoo-ha that we created and we let known regarding fuel prices. Did the conversation not begin to change?
Yep.
Every time we've made a big hoo-ha about something, those in positions to make the change have listened. You know why? Because they know the consequences of that hoo-ha.
Right.
But have we internalized it? Must we get to a point where every once in a while we wait until it's actually choking the air out of our system for us to speak out? Because in my mind, what seems clear is that we have a leadership that understands that unless it is pushed and whipped, it doesn't act. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. No. It looks after its own self-interest. That is what they keep telling us, and that's what we keep seeing. And again, you keep saying it, Ndu. Someone is telling you what they think about you. Please pay attention. They keep telling you this. Please pay attention. This morning, we're talking about the travel allowances, the amount of money we are spending for our legislators to travel for meetings which we know can be held virtually. We know. And for all these meetings that they go to, there are other nations who are also attending these meetings, but the virtual option, right now in this day and age of COVID, the virtual option is always there. So, when we talk about the communities in this country that are marginalized, I am truly puzzled. Case in point, Laikipia. Case in point, the 12 counties that are facing imminent danger of drought, starvation. Someone then tells you happily that they have allocated 2 billion Kenya shillings to solve the problem. The same amount of money that we lose every day, as reported by our president, as mentioned to us by the Auditor General. So you're telling us that you want to solve a problem that exists in 12 counties with this amount of money. Okay, fine. Let's say, good thing you've done, you've allocated 12 billion. So how do you want to spend this 12 billion?
2 billion.
Did I say 12?
Yes.
I'm being adventurous here.
Yeah,
2 billion.
2 billion.
To 12 counties.
Yes. Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much. How do you want to do it? And how is it going to solve this problem?
You see, the thing is, I don't even think that there was a solution that was being looked for. I think what it was is that there needed to be an answer thrown at this thing that people were, and not an answer. There's a difference between an answer and a solution. I think there needed to be an answer thrown at this problem so that it will get these, rumblings quelled. Okay, we're doing something about it. National government is doing something. Because it does not make sense.
What was happening there? The 2 billion shillings, even the government understands. I mean, they said the minimum we need is 6 billion shillings. All right? So we are putting 2 billion in the kitty. It is that spirit of Harambee. Basically, what the government is doing is, mimi yangu ni 2 billion nimeweka hapo. Haya. Sindikiza. The government has put in the 2 billion shillings and now is asking everybody else. Escort. Ndio at least tujaze hii kikapu.
Is this really But Eric, I mean, in all honesty, is this our burden really? Okay. Every time there's a problem, is it our burden as Kenyans? When the goodies are being shared, it's among the leaders. Yes. When there are problems, then it's us also.
It's us.
Surely.
The problem is ours. And private sector has coughed out cash to buy COVID vaccines.
For the government.
Yes. The government did not budget enough for COVID vaccines this year. All right? But how much are we spending on these other flowery things?
Well, we're traveling as we normally travel.
Life is normal.
Allowances are being paid for me. I mean, come on.
Which is why that idea of subject the leadership to the everyday life of the mwananchi. So we stop talking about, mwananchi wa kawaida, mwananchi anaumia, or, mwananchi is not umiering when you don't know.
You actually think you know, but you don't.
Yeah, you don't know.
No, you don't. You're actually very
You fall sick, you know very well Workers have gone on strike. You're a governor. Yeah. If I fall sick, I know where I'm going. I mean, I'm never going to use that facility anyway. So, the doctors are saying they're downing their tools tomorrow.
Down your tools,
You down your tools, I'm going to fire you.
I'll fire you and hire more because there are more who would be happy with getting half of what you're earning.
You fall sick as a governor, you will go to a private hospital. You will get very good care, paid for by taxpayer.
These very same people.
And it's COVID, by the way. We are talking about governors and CSAs who have gone through COVID. They have gone to private hospitals. They know they can get that treatment there. They are not dedicating adequate resources to addressing COVID in their county hospitals.
So,
because they are not in touch with it. It's not their problem.
Exactly. So it's not a matter of that they do not understand their duty, right?
Mm.
Because you get sick, you need proper health care, that you need certain things to be put in place so that you can live your life in a positive way, right? So it's not that they don't understand. They understand that these are the things that are needed. They understand that they're in a pivotal position to do something about it. Legislate, oversight, that you should put things in place in order to make it conducive. That's a job of government, right? They understand.
Yep.
It is more painful that you know what you're supposed to do and then you do not do it. That you do everything but that. In fact, the Bible calls it a sin. If you're going to look towards the Bible,
what is right and does not do it, to him it is sin.
That's the Bible. And I'm almost sure that any religion that you want to look at, the thing that most people say that they are guided by, right? Superior being somewhere guiding me through life. That there's something akin to that. The more painful part here, folks, is that, ask the question, do leaders understand? They do. Why do we continually take it from leaders who understand what they're supposed to do and just choose not to do it?
Ndukana, let me just contribute to what you said, because you've actually set in motion a certain train of thought in my mind. When I was training as a teacher many years ago, one of the things that were taught, and it opened my eyes to something very fundamental, being in a learning environment and being educated, the two are not necessarily the same thing. And receiving information again and being educated, not also necessarily the same. Because according to, there's one particular gentleman who taught us this. See, when someone is educated, the mark and the indications are in the manifestation of that education. So when somebody is educated, it's not just they have the knowledge now, no. But it ought to also change their behavior. That's what education is all about. So, and what is the hallmark of education? Knowledge. Because you now know, that knowledge ought to change the way you look at life and the way you conduct yourself in this life. Look at the leadership that we have and what they consider to be of priority.
Right.
Evidently, it isn't serving people. Evidently, it isn't seeking to ensure that the life of the people they represent is better. That is clearly not. If it were, then everything that we're saying would have come to pass. Hospitals would be what they were, what we keep saying they ought to be. Schools would have been what we say they ought to be. And all public servants and all political leaders would be going to public hospitals because they would know.
Yes, no.
It would be a no-brainer. There would be no discussion around it.
No, at all.
Because they would have long ensured that these facilities are the best. And by the way,
they are.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Governor Kivutha Kibwana the other day has been recuperating from a surgery that he went through, right? The first port of call for him, in his own account, was the Makueni Hospital. And then he required to do some tests. He went to the Machakos Level 5 Hospital. When now he needed to be admitted for operation, this particular doctor is the one who told him, now let's go to the Nairobi Hospital. But the first two hospitals he went to, county hospitals.
Those were his choices. Ask yourself today that these leaders that we're talking about right now, let's look at just two sectors. Let's not even go far. Education, healthcare, all right? Members of their family or they themselves, where are their children in school? Are they in the public system?
God, no.
When they have sick or they themselves are sick, are they in the public system?
Nope.
You have to ask yourself why. Why are they not taking their sick to the public hospitals? Why are they not taking their children to public schools? Their colleagues work in these sectors.
Yep.
Their colleagues, people who they wake up every morning and go to work. These are the sectors that they're supposed to be buffering every day. But they do not trust the system that they are working in. But it's been thrown to the population, the larger percentage of the population, and they're being told, yeah, you guys just use that. We will be over here.
Do you know one of the things I find terrifyingly unfortunate is how, when I look at the country, in many, many ways, we think we're moving forward, but we seem to be moving backwards. When we had the Estonian president here, and she talked about the equity that you find in the public and private sector, meaning it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Do you know we were there? The preferred employer in this country for the longest time was the civil service, not the private sector. Everything that people look forward to having in the private sector was in the public sector.
I'm telling you, it was.
And education, preferred education, again, public sector.
People who went through that system can compete anywhere in the world today.
Believe me, it was preferred.
I give you, and you're in good company, by the way. Kenya's in good company. The other day, I was reading an article of the proposed governor for Lagos State, who's just come back after months of medical leave in London. He was not flanked by the members of his family. He was flanked by fellow legislators who went to do what? To visit him in a London hospital. They all came back that they have gone to greet him. Thank you very much. You're okay now. Medical leave outside the country. Then your colleagues are with you, welcoming you back. The system is so rotten, so dilapidated that you don't even know how people go from triage to surgery in national hospitals. The public system so rotten, and rather than you buckle down, put boots on the ground and fix it, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm sick now.
The access is to those others. All right. So we talk about, human rights. You cannot deny somebody their right to access healthcare, wherever they want to access healthcare.
It's okay.
We'll bring all that conversation. But if you look back at our leaders, Moi Kibaki gets an accident. The first hospital he was taken to was not public hospital.
No.
When he was flown out of the country, he went out of the country. Okay? Talk about all of them. Raila Odinga the other day went for operation outside the country. Talk about all of them.
All of them. Did we not have Raphael Tuju making a walk to Kijabe the other? Because why?
Because that is the first
It was the closest hospital, my friend.
It was the closest one that was.
Yeah, it was
and
the
thank
closest.
God it is Kijabe AIC Mission Hospital.
It is not a public hospital.
Yes. Because the AIC Mission has done a lot with that facility. Now, imagine if it was a bit further up, where he needed now to go to a different hospital.
Naivasha District Hospital,
Yes.
or sub-county or sub-county hospital. That one.
If it was somewhere between Naivasha and Nakuru, Gilgil,
You would be with the
where
rest
would
of
he
the
have gone?
riffraff.
The accidents around Kikope. Next.
Where do you go?
My friend. So the question that we're asking, and we want you to participate in this conversation, is should we make all our elected leaders, let's just start with elected leaders, right? Elected leaders use public facilities, public schools, and public hospitals to start with. By force, no elected leader goes to private. All go to public. Take your children to public school.
Let's all join in the
All
public
of you
hospital.
go to public hospitals. Do you agree with that? Do you support that move? 0719-012-600 or SpiceFM KE on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter. It's 9:30. Let's take a look at the traffic and then we open up the phone lines. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
We give you the latest, the funniest, and the most entertaining updates and news from Kenya and the world while you kick back and relax. Join in on our comical duo Hassan Umar and Sugar Boy on Habari za News every Friday at 10 p.m. only on KTN Home.
24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
from 2019, she has stayed with 6 different people. You know, we are saving money. There's no need for him to be renting in this side.
And I'm renting this side.
No.
Yeah.
And sometimes this is an avenue for women to con men. Let me just be very honest with you people. Today we are talking about performing marriage duties while you're still dating. Why are you paying rent and this is not your wife?
Yo.
We need to start holding each other accountable for those people who are dating. Learn to buy your own bed.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between work, love, and play. The Adults in the Room is the only show on radio dedicated to educating Kenyans on how they can stay winning in life and in love. Text the word adult to 22840 to get the latest clips from Adults in the Room directly to your mobile phone. SMS adults to 22840.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us, assert our will.
When the legislators are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi Lokop is Jeshi la Wokovu?
I can't say it very well. No, you must watch Jeshi Lokop.
And everyone knows.
It's mostly cloudy in Nairobi at 20, highs of 24 and lows of 15. Nakuru is mostly sunny at 22, highs of 25. We'll see lows of 14. 15 will be the low in a mostly cloudy Nyeri town, highs of 24. In Eldoret, it's mostly sunny at 22, highs of 23 and lows of 13. Let's take a look into Mombasa, where it's now raining in some parts at 29, highs of 30 and lows of 24. In Malindi, it's light rain at 29, highs of 30 and lows of 25. And in Kisumu, mostly cloudy conditions, 24, highs of 29 and lows of 20. The sun is out in Kakamega at 24, highs of 28 and lows of 15. And we'll look out into Kampala, where it's mostly sunny at 22 with highs of 28. It'll come down to lows of 17. Dar es Salaam, raining in some parts. The sun has disappeared, highs of 30 and lows of 23. While in Joburg, it's sunny at 22, highs of 28 and lows of 15. Lagos is looking mostly sunny for today at 25. That'll be the low, going to highs of 32. And in Kinshasa, partly sunny at 25, highs of 33 and lows of 23. Let's look out east into Beijing, where it's sunny at 20. We'll look at lows of 12. And in Paris, 6 degrees and mostly cloudy, highs of 15 and lows of 5. It's the winter months coming in soon. Mostly cloudy conditions in London at 8, highs of 16 and lows of 8. It's coming into Wednesday in the Big Apple at 18. New York will be cloudy, highs of 22 and lows of 17.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
North Airport Road is not the place to be this morning. There's quite a lot of traffic in and outbound, heading out towards Embakasi, and it's not giving up, guys, in any way, at least not for now. The Southern Bypass looking much better, though. Where is it not looking pretty? On Langata Road, on Gong Road, into the CBD. Uhuru Highway is a total mess. It continues to be so. The industrial area circuit of Lunga Lunga, Likoni, and Lusaka, that square, not looking too pretty in most parts. Spilling over onto Mombasa Road from Enterprise Road, at least. That looks all right. The Southern Bypass is free and clear all the way till Langata Road, where we already talked about traffic being crazy. It's looking a little bit better on the Thika Superhighway getting into the city. Kiambu Road also easing out as we get out of traffic hour in not too long from now. But that's what we've seen so far. It's not been too crazy a Wednesday. Hopefully we can get into the rest of the day without too much drama. Let's try, shall we? SpiceFM KE on Twitter, just in case things do go sticky. Text on 40127.
Spice and everything nice. All right. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94
Conversation continues. So, should all elected leaders only use public facilities such as hospitals and schools? Yeah? If Marie Antoinette was actually taking bread from the corner shop there, she'd have noticed what was happening. She didn't know.
She didn't know it was being served cake. No, this one they know.
This one, how about we make them know the status of the schools, the crowding of schools, and the crowding in public hospitals. 0719-012-600. Please call us in, and also you can give us your opinion on SpiceFM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram.
You know, it's easy to sit here and sound sensational and say, oh, actually, that's what should happen. But let's just be very serious. You have these facilities around the country. They are human beings, not extraterrestrial beings who are operating these things. Human beings who have to go there. So I dare say that if you feel at the end, if the measure of your work is being chalked up to these overstuffed schools, inadequate hospitals, if that is the measure of your work, that you can, and I said, we're just using those two, okay, let's throw in this whole drought and famine thing, right? So those three areas, and we're talking about the country striving towards sustainability, that we are striving towards establishing housing and manufacturing and food security and healthcare. But that's the measure of your work, and that is what we see. We might as well all partake in this bread that we are baking. Don't save the orange tart for some people. All of us, let us eat it together. Let us swim in these waters together. If you say that the job that you are doing is 1, 2, 3, and this is the end result, don't save something prettier for yourself. Don't do it. Don't send your children to the hoity-toity schools. Don't do it. Don't take yourselves to the private medical facilities so that you can get this medical care, which you know you have not provided for the majority of Kenyans who cannot afford it. Don't do it.
You know,
let's all of us here. Let's be together here.
We are together when one is seeking an elective position. We are the same people, and we are one. We are one country, we are one tribe, we are one community, we are neighbors. The moment the election takes place and you are in that position of elected leader, you are now different. So everything about you is different. The places you go to, the people you associate with, and how it is you expect to be looked at, treated, how you expect to live, everything changes. You become a different person. And you cannot behave like the normal mwananchi you were before you were elected, because you are different. And you know, strange as it may sound, people also expect you to be different.
Yeah. Hey, anakujanga hospitali na sisi. Huyu.
Why don't the people in the Netherlands, where their ministers are riding bicycles with the rest of the Dutch, all about shout and make noise, when they see the fellow on the tube riding home with them at the same time, why don't they shout and say, oh, a minister on the tube riding a bicycle?
The reason is because
when Bojo was in the supermarket buying dinner, frozen dinner, and people were taking pictures of him, and the people who, guess what? The people who were taking pictures of him were immigrants who owned that shop, not the normal Brits who expect. Why?
Because the neighborhoods where these wananchi who are the leaders live, other wananchi also live.
Yeah.
These facilities we're speaking about, schools, hospitals, they go to the same hospitals, children go to the same schools, meaning at a certain level, that fundamental difference isn't there. But our leadership wants that difference to be there to begin with.
Very
or
clear.
That CT, or that the infrastructure has been so well developed because people understand what they're supposed to do with the platform that they've been given, and they make sure that it is up to scratch. No question. Nothing like, no. The facilities are there because people are doing their jobs.
People are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
It doesn't matter who attends. Prince or Pauper, we're all in the same boat together.
Karanja is on the line from Naivasha. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric Latiff and City again.
Good morning, Karanja. Always a pleasure.
Even me, I like you when you normally speak on radio SpiceFM or KTN. I like that.
Very
in fact,
good.
it is a very good thing.
Very good.
Now, there is what we call the ethos of public services.
Yes.
Now, I think it is a very good move, given the fact that most of the level 5 hospitals, they have no good services. Now, if an MP or a senator can come there and see what really happened, I think it's a very good move. You know, the issue of this is for gathers people, this is the vagabonds in power, called the VIPs. Now, I think it is good we eat at them in a hotel here in Naivasha. He be served with maybe Ugari and some Managus there. And he can see how things go, how things work.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you very much, Karanja. Audrey in Kino.
Morning, Eric. How are you?
Very well, thanks, Audrey. Are you well?
Yes, I'm well.
Good.
Morning, Ndu. Morning, City.
Good morning.
So, I agree with that 100%. See, the school that Kithure Kindiki was landing from a chopper in to go build,
Yeah.
you know, the one with the mud walls, that is where his children should go to. Yeah. I mean, he built it with his own hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, his
So he
children
trusts-
should go there.
Yeah, it's
a
good
school.
Yes, they should trust that whatever their
He
father
will tell you
did-
that he went there.
Sorry?
He will tell you that he went there.
Yes, so it's good enough for his kids, right?
Yeah.
Yes, so that is exactly where they should go. The hospital that he donates medicine once in a while, the equipment they buy without actually planning for it.
Yep.
The ICU facilities they build in quotes without nurses and equipment. That is where they should go to when they fall sick. I mean, that is what they build. Come on.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's true.
It's the work of their hands, and they should be able to enjoy it fully.
I like the way you put it. Thank you, Audrey.
Thank you. Have a nice day, guys.
You too. Let's go to Kisii. Mwalimu Irongo.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning,
Good morning.
How do you do, City?
Well, the response usually is, how do you do? But let me respond like again, I'm doing fine.
Okay, that's you are Kenyan. I can see that's Kenyan English.
Yes.
Now, how to make our legislatures and the other official, these ones who are flying abroad for medication, to come on and visit the same hospitals we are visiting, is where the problem is. It will become, because this thing has to be legislated. I don't know how possible it is with those animals who are more animals than others. Will legislate what is against them. But my other word about it is that there are so many things, Eric, that needed to be fixed. Starting from the amount of money they have allocated themselves. It's the same amount of money that they used to fly to go to these other hospitals.
Yes.
So when others are actually not even earning money, others are earning peanuts. So I want to also say that these guys are funny. They don't even obey court orders. So even if this was legislated and then they refuse to comply, you will go to a court of law and then they will not obey that court order. Finally, another funny thing is that we have our governments coming in and walking out. We have not had any head of state, starting from Kenyatta, to the current Uhuru Kenyatta, who has ever become willing to face corruption, to face some of all these things you have been discussing. In other words, to destroy the status quo.
Yeah.
So it remains for us to tell ourselves, we are on our own. Can we chase these people out of their positions and elect guys who can probably come and do something different?
Today, Irongo,
Yes.
if one of your neighbors there, somebody who takes their child to the same school as yourself, I'm assuming you teach in a public facility.
Yes.
You're a public school teacher.
Yes.
Now, somebody who brings their children to the school that you teach, somebody who, when they fall sick, you know very well, I mean, they're your neighbor, they go to the health facility that the rest of you go to. If that person came and said, I want to be the MP for this area, what are you and your neighbors likely to say about them?
One thing I'm very sure of is that people will think this person is going to help us, me included. The worry is, how fast will this person change and follow the others who don't bring their children to our schools, who don't visit the hospitals we visit? How fast will this person change once elected? It is very complicated, if I can leave it at that.
It's always the fear. Thank you very much, Mwalimu. 0719-012-600. So, should all elected leaders be made to only use public facilities, public schools, public hospitals, and all? In fact, leaders in Nairobi should be made to use those public facilities, including public toilets.
Yep.
I've just thought about that. I've thought about that because the other day, I was just thinking about this whole move by the Nairobi City County government to come up with new tougher regulations on, throwing of garbage, littering and all, right? And they say, if you're caught, the penalty is actually even going to be stiffer. And then I just thought about the bus stops that we have, the many places where the area where most of the buses from upcountry come to, that area between Moi Avenue down to the River Road. How many public toilets do we have in those areas? Let's just talk about tea room. All the vehicles from Mount Kenya, from Meru, Nanyuki, Nyeri, come around tea room.
It's now called Kenneth
Matiba Road,
yes.
Right? And even vehicles for Kileleshwa and also around there.
By the way, that same road, if you go further down, that's where many of the buses that go up country also further down. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a very,
further
very
down
busy.
Across River Road.
Yes.
Very busy.
Yes.
So imagine this person who has decided, they need to come and access some government service in Nairobi because they've been told go to the headquarters at the ministry in Nairobi. You're coming from Pickup area, Chogoria. You've entered this Nissan in the morning. In the Nissan.
Yeah, that onomatopoeia, that's how Nissan, yes, that's how they move, yes.
Right. You left Chogoria, get to Embu, and then there's this person who's selling bananas and water. And this lady, let's call her what? Nkirote has diabetes. So she's required to keep eating and have water. So she decides to buy this bunch of bananas and a bottle of water. She eats the bananas in the vehicle. She's responsible. She gets a place where she keeps all the banana peels with herself. She doesn't throw them off.
Out of the window.
Out of the window. And she drinks her
water.
Matatu comes. Nairobi. Tea room. Kidote gets out of the matatu. She has her banana peels and she has a water bottle.
Where does she
dump them? Is there a garbage pit? Kirote, because she has taken a liter of water and she's been sitting in the matatu, next thing that she want to do is use the bathroom.
Yes.
Where does she go? And she needs to move out of that tea room to go to community where the government offices are. But Kanjo people will be walking like that. dare throw. In fact, they're waiting for
Yeah.
Kirota.
You just throw it down.
Just throw
Give
it
me
down.
the opportunity to
Yes.
slap the bangles on you and lock you up.
People sitting there and just coming up with regulations and laws.
It's very easy
It's very easy.
to say you should, you
But just
must,
don't-
and then write it down and then make it a law. It's good. It's very nice. However,
the beauty of the laws is how it cascades impunity, because these council officers, these county officers who are supposed to ensure that these laws are enforced, are some of the most vicious creatures you've ever come across on this planet.
if you go into a dilapidated building, right, or you go and the facilities are a mess, and you've been told this is the option that you have for living, this is where you are going to live. You can't go to the neighbors. It's yours.
This is the only one that's available.
Will you clean it up so that it can become habitable and so that you can live in it, or are you going to be bouncing around using other people's facilities? So you'll clean up that one because that's where you're forced to stay.
Yes.
You will clean it up so that it can be habitable, you will live in it, and you can come and go every day, you use it. That's what I'm saying. If you force these people to use the facilities that they have created, they will clean it up. They will clean up the system. They will make sure it is working. They will make sure it is world class, because world class is what they're chasing, Abi. Now, if you force them and say you have to, this is the parameters within which you shall operate, force them to use it, they will make it world class.
There's going to be change. WW says them using public facilities is what will make them come to terms with the reality and trigger them to work to have those facilities working. Unfortunately, population has realized the power of holding the elected leaders to account. Mjanja amerevuka, mjinga amerevuka. Wherever you, mashakani. We've gotten to that point, full circle.
But you know something, Erica? Why I called it tragic earlier on is this. When you find something as abominable as what we're discussing becoming normal, it's exceptional. It's exceptionally bad that a country that is as resourceful with citizens who are as industrious as this one of ours, industrious to the point where they are able to sustain the government through their taxes, have to be burdened with the sort of leadership that we have, who we do our bit and then they dissipate it. We do our bit, then they dissipate it. And their response to it when we ask is long stories that bear no visible fruit whatsoever. Now, it's tragic. But it's tragic when it's normalized and we then accept that this is the way we are, and this is the way we live. You know, when you accept transgression as being right, when you accept wrong as being right, when you accept harm as being good, then the question one asks is, what do you see your end as? Because it's a path that you are willingly walking on, and it's a goal you're willingly walking towards. What do you see your end as? Because the only thing that we seem to agree on is that we are all united in our ability to complain.
Yes.
And complain very loudly, oh, this is right, oh, this is not so, oh, this is not so, this is not right. And to add insult to injury, the very leaders who bring about this situation and perpetuate it also join us in complaining. It's like we, the citizens, we, the United Citizens. You know, sometimes I look at this whole situation and I'm at a loss for words.
You just can't understand. You can't get it.
Yes.
Because you're using a different kind of vehicle, because you are in a four-wheel drive car, you will not notice that the section between Haile Selassie Avenue and Museum Hill
is a jungle.
Hi. It's a war zone. Man.
You know, so last night I was driving on that road. I get to the university roundabout.
Okay.
I'm heading towards the Museum Hill interchange.
So that delightful single lane.
Yes.
Which masquerades as a
so I'm on the road, and then I know at some point I'm supposed to be getting off the road to get onto the mud.
To turn left.
To turn left somewhere. I just don't see where. I'm heading on the road. I find this huge, humongous tractor.
Bang in the middle of the road.
In the middle of the road, it's moving. And those guys are just guiding it along.
Come.
You figure it out. You find somewhere to pass.
Yeah.
The guys with the big cars, you can bear the pain. It's only for a short while.
Why must we bear the pain, really?
Why bear it at all?
It's only for a short while.
And the pain isn't necessary.
Yeah. It's not their vehicle. That car will be taken for service.
And they don't pay for the maintenance.
They don't pay for maintenance of this car. It's a huge vehicle. Moving on swiftly. You do not relate with what's happening. Go to a public facility, like you said, a public hospital. If you do not go to a public hospital, if you know that your parliamentary privileges give you a health insurance cover that take you to the best facilities, you will fall sick. You will get whatever you get. You will end up at a very nice private facility in Karen, and you'll be there and you'll be visited by the who and who. And you'll take photos and you'll post the photos with the dignitaries who've come to visit you in this private facility where you are in a very big room. In fact, there's a place where today you're on the bed, tomorrow you're on a sofa, the other day you're sitting where
you can entertain people.
You can entertain people. It's spacious enough. In public facilities, we just read about, what was it, one of these counties 2 weeks ago, where people are actually sharing the same ward as dead bodies.
Yes.
Patients have died. Patients have not been moved. 10 hours, 12 hours, staying there. And you are sharing a bed with another patient. And the dead person is on the bed next to you.
Let me ask this question, Eric.
And you cannot entertain all these big people, the dignitaries who come to visit us.
Do you know the silver lining in all this? Every once in a while, you're surprised to find that there will be a certain section of government where somebody's actually doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You come across these.
They will be there, by the way. I've come across them.
I was actually thinking of one that I came across a while back.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you realize, you mean to tell me this is the money the government gives towards these facilities? I came across a med soup some years ago who changed the hospital. I mean, it was a sub-district hospital, became a sub-county hospital, then became a county. And I saw it changing. And I asked, did this guy get more money than the others? He said, no, this is the money that the government allocates for these things every year.
Yeah.
So you ask, so what have the other people who've been here, what have they been doing? A theater was built, God knows what was expanded, God knows what was expanded. Meaning, the person actually put to use the money that had been allocated. Anyway.
And they also knew very well how to cultivate. If you actually find out that med soup had to play a lot of politics of just getting the buy-in from the people who are supposed to be signing.
Yes.
So they can get what they need to get on time.
Yes.
There's a lot of negotiation that takes place. And that med soup will tell you, for me to get there, I realized I needed to cede a lot of ground, lower myself to a certain level
to be able to get this
just
thing.
so I can get this.
Yes.
And they shouldn't be doing that.
They shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be doing that. They should basically just be going somewhere and saying, this is what we need.
And it's provided.
And actually, there's a whole plan. It's in the County Integrated Development Plan on healthcare. It says, what are we doing with X level 3, X level 2, X level 4 hospital? But stories. Anyway, let's talk about the cow. If we are patient, we will grow fat.
You keep saying this cow. There's no cow in the proverb.
Okay.
Where did you get cow from?
No, he has insisted on
All
the cow.
right, so tell us the proverb.
It says,
Yeah.
Ehoya Yanula. The patient animal fattens.
You've changed. I wrote it down. When you said cow, I wrote down the cow. The
You
patient
wrote the cow down?
animal.
I said animal and you thought cow.
Okay. Have a lovely day, folks. See you again tomorrow. It's now 10 a.m.